13.
O'clock.
Hey, you guys.
Yep.
It's Wednesday.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Who else would be here?
Pookie got all kinds of presents today.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, indeed.
You guys.
Yep.
Patron and friend of the show, Ilsa.
Yeah, Auntie Ilsa.
I know. That's what I've been called. That's what I've been calling her.
Auntie Ilsa.
She sent us two boxes came from Chewy. We got one yesterday, and I was like, wait, what is this? Because I have like a thing where every 6 weeks, like Chewy sends me, a thing of treats and like some of those mint toys that they love so much. And so I thought it was that for a second, but then I opened it. It was this little bag of all of these really cool like Halloween toys, all of which are scattered all over the floor back there, because what happened was I was going to leave them in the bag to show on the show because they're super cool. There's like little mousies and little crinkle balls, but they're all like Halloween themes, so they're all like orange or like black and white striped, and they're really cool looking. And I was like, ooh, that looks really neat, and I'm going to show that on the show. But then as soon as I opened the box, like Pookie started jumping on the bag, was like, open, open, open. So I had to open it, and then she was like, okay, now play with them. So I had to like throw them all over the floor. So now they're like all over the floor back there, like all over the floor.
Little Draculas and cats with catnip in them.
Yeah, and then today, we got that box that had little Dracula and cats, and oh my god, she just jumped right on the bag and said, please open those.
Yeah, I guess she can smell catnip coming out of
I'm pretty sure there's like cat.
She knows what cat toys are.
Yeah, she's like, oh my god, these are for me. And also, you guys, we got these two. These are like the Halloween special. Like Ilsa sent us that. Like Ilsa's so awesome. Okay, so she sent us this flavor. This is the Temptations, like I said, the kitty crack, creepy catnip flavor, blissful catnip, which very awesome, very awesome. And look, you guys, I'm so excited about this. Look, it's the tasty human flavor.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I heard about this and I was like, wow, did somebody make that in Photoshop? Because that's pretty good. Like, I didn't think it was real. I was like, wow, that's really funny. But no, it's actually real. I'm like, good on you, Temptations. That shit's so funny.
Good thing about Temptations is I was worried that those things were really high in calorie, maybe not too nutritious, because she eats those, basically.
Yeah, I mean, she'll eat wet food every now and then, but mostly she's just like, treats, please, and she just eats those like by the fucking handful. And eats very
little of the other real cat, what we consider real cat food. But on the back, it says, no, this is high-quality cat food. It's not real high in calorie. You can feed them whole bowls of that. So actually, I kind of
like a half cup.
So I must have not have been the only one that was worried that that's all she wants to eat.
Yeah. I mean, every now and then she'll beg and be like, hey, can I have a little bit out of the can? But then she'll just like lick the gravy and then wander off. But I wanted to read the back of this because it's this is super funny. One of the things that it says, just in case anyone was curious, it says, these treats are chicken, liver, and beef flavored and do not contain any humans. So, in case you were worried that somebody had ground up some babies and put in there. But I thought this was funny on the back. It says, Happy Halloween. It's been proven that even a little house cat like me shares DNA with lions and tigers. If I were bigger and got a chance, I just might try to eat you. I'm sure Pookie probably would. Yeah. Thankfully, this spooky season, we have Temptations mix-ups, tasty human treats to satisfy my craving. You already know I love chicken, liver, and beef. Hand over the treats so I don't add you to the list. That sounds like a threat. Like the cat's threatening, give me those treats or I'm going to eat you.
Yeah.
You're a human ass.
Yeah.
I'm sure, probably if Pookie was big or if we were really small, she would probably eat us without even thinking about it. You don't think so?
No, because there's a Russian guy who's got a channel, and he's got a mountain lion that's the size of a person, and that thing just fucking loves him. And if you see the behavior, it's just the behavior of a normal house cat. And there are people that have owned lions, going back thousands of years, had ancient Romans that owned lions that just walked around inside the house, and they partied with them, and... No, I think if they're hand raised, they don't see people as food. If they got hungry, you know what I mean. If they were starving to death, I still don't think they'd eat you. No, I don't think they would. A dog won't.
If you die in the house, though, I think after a while they probably will eat you.
They'd eat you if they were dead. If you were dead, they'd eat you.
Yeah, which but they're like, well, let's not waste that. Which is fair enough. I wouldn't be mad. I mean, Pookie could eat me if she needed to.
No, they see you They see you as part of their little pride. Their little lion pack. So
Gramther's Hammer said Siegfried and Roy might disagree.
Yeah, that was different though.
Yeah. Well.
Those lion acts and tiger acts, man, they're trying to get animals to do something that they don't really want to do, you know. And they're playing games of domination on these things and chasing them around. They may not be totally hand raised either, you know. But eventually an animal can get pissed off. I mean, elephants do all the time. You know,
I'd be pissed off too if I was an elephant in a circus.
Yeah, you know, they're not living a life that an elephant is supposed to live, you know, and eventually some of them just fucking lose it and they start killing people. So I don't blame the damn elephant.
I don't either, not one bit.
But then some elephants just sweet as hell. There was an Indian elephant that some asshole had chained up, and they had damn spikes on its wrists, and it would just sit there and cry for years and beg for food, and people would feed it plastic, and it didn't get enough to eat. And eventually somebody went down there and rescued it. They filmed the rescuing of that thing, and it was crying as it was walking away, and got up in the truck because it knew that let's get the fuck out of here. Yeah. Yeah, elephants are intelligent, you know, probably similar to maybe a little bit more than a chimpanzee.
Yeah, they're way more intelligent than they're given credit for, I feel like. So,
you know, and that elephant knew that it was in a bad jam, and it was asking people to help it, you know, and you could tears rolling down its eyes and shit. It wasn't fake. You could see it. You know, they were out there with damn cameras in the middle of the night trying to, when they went there and they started to cut the damn shackles off the thing. They stole the elephant, basically.
Well, I probably would have done the same thing, not gonna lie.
Yeah. Well, the local authorities were like, didn't agree with it either. They couldn't really give permission to steal it, and they didn't have the right to take it from the guy under Indian laws. But basically the cops let it be known that there wouldn't be any investigation if it disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they stole the thing. You can see that story on YouTube. And then they took it to an elephant sanctuary. It's hanging out with other elephants, gained a bunch of weight, and you know that elephant loves people. So no, there are animals out there that are far stronger that you can abuse, and they won't lash out to the general public, you know. And they won't even lash out against the abuser, which
even though probably they should. I mean, how awesome would that have been if that elephant would have just like stepped on that dude,
crushed that dude,
I mean, and everybody would be like, "Oh well, he had that coming."
He was kind of just an asshole grifter dude who really tried to make money off of fucking getting an elephant to beg for him and sell drugs on the side. And the guy was just, you know, living in a fucking mud hut, basically, you know, somewhere in one of those Indian outskirts of those Indian towns. And people said, give that over that elephant. You can't afford to feed it. And he's like, nope, you know.
Well, I kind of feel like if you own an animal and you don't, like, you mistreat it, I kind of feel like, one, it has every right to eat you, and two, people have every right to, like, take it from you.
It had shackles on its legs, and it had screws on the inside of the shackles an inch long, and it would sit there and it was just rubbing them down through the damn meat. That's how he kept it docile. Just keep it in constant pain. It couldn't walk. Just horrible. I'd have fucking done something to that dude. He's lucky. You know,
yeah, I mean,
I'd have done something to that dude.
Like I said, I don't. You know, I'm not a big fan of like people do shit to people either. But I mean, anybody that would do that to an animal, that's the same kind of person. Yeah, really. I mean, you don't give a shit about anything other than yourself. Clearly.
No, I'd made sure that his life would have changed forever. Let's just say it that way.
And like I said, in some ways, like treating an animal like that is like treating a child like
treating
that.
a child that way. Yeah.
Yeah, and nobody puts up with that crap.
No.
So.
No.
You know,
he'd never been the same when I was done with him.
Yeah.
You guys can just read from that what you will. I mean, the dude weighed $105. You know, it'd be like fighting a child, but he would not be the same afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, you know, if the elephant could consent, it would be cool if he could just like stick that dude up the elephant's butt. But you know, don't do that to the elephant either.
Yeah.
Don't get him involved in it. Although I would have been happy if like the elephant had stepped on the motherfucker. You know.
He would have got some mafia justice. It would have been something like that. Something you'd saw on fucking, you know, something you'd see out of Godfather.
Yeah, Grantham's Hammer also points out treating bears like homies didn't work out so well for Grizzly Man either. That's true. Yeah. Although it was just the one bear.
That one, and
to be fair,
he predicted that was the bear that would eat him.
Yeah, so he did seem to like be. I mean, he hung out with lots of bears, and it was just that. But I guess it only takes one, really. But
yeah, and that particular bear was an old, weak bear that wasn't eating properly, and was settle for a shitty meal. And a man is a shitty meal from a point of view of a fucking bear.
Although they'll eat out of garbage cans, so.
Well, I mean, there's not much meat there.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
We're kind of stringy.
There's a video of damn bear defeating and getting ready to eat a wild boar. And that fucking pig was screaming, and it was just had it by the neck and was just trying to wear it out. That boar tried to get away, and everybody was coming out of their cars filming it. It was happening on the side of the road. And eventually that bear drug that boar up the damn incline side of the hill and then disappeared with it. They're not really predators. Bears are not apex predators. They're more like an opportunist or a scavenger. They're collecting berries and they'll find shit and they'll eat carrion if it's fresh. And they'll get fish and shit, you know. But they're not really hunters. They're not. They will hunt, but that's just like a side gig.
It's just like we don't want to work if we don't have to.
Hunting big animals is
hard.
Dangerous.
And you can get hurt.
If they get hurt, they can't get first aid.
Yeah.
So it's safer to get fish.
Yeah, Granthers also says, don't kid yourselves. If Pookie were the size of a mountain lion, you'd be breakfast if she woke up hungry.
I disagree.
I don't know. I don't know if she'd eat me or not.
No.
She might eat me.
No, if they're hand raised, they're totally different. There are people that have hand raised them and had them in houses for fucking thousands of years.
Although, to be honest, I'm not real sure. I think that Pookie thinks that she's a person.
They think they're humans, yeah.
I mean, she thinks that she's the same species as we are.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I don't know, obviously. I don't know what's going on in her little mind, but she seems to think that she's a little person.
The main difference between all those cats is just the size. The bigger they are, the more dominant they think they are. But like I said, if you hand raise a cat from an early age, they won't turn on you unless you deserve to be turned on. If you're abusing the cat,
Which, like I said, I don't have a problem with that at all.
But no, I mean, they got a Russian guy who fucking owns a mountain lion that's fucking big, man, and it's a male mountain lion.
Well, it's bigger than he is.
Yeah, it's a male mountain lion, and it waits for him when he's coming home from work, and fucking...
It acts just like a little bitty cat.
Acts just like a cat, and his mama is a fucking, like a 22-year-old pretty Russian girl, and she just talks about him, Messy, M-E-S-S-I, Messy. The channel's I Am Puma. It's on YouTube. And he gets up into bed with him and fucking curls up with him and fucking licks him on the side of the face, and that fucking mountain lion loves that man. It just does. When you see it. You know love when you see it. And he takes it outside and walks it around on a leash, and he's got pajamas for it. Because he takes it out into the snow.
Yeah.
And, he has to have a collar on it. Make sure nobody shoots it, because they have guns in Russia.
Yeah.
And it's just it's like a giant house cat. Exactly like a giant house cat. But he's got habitat for it and feeds it. He's got money. And that cat is definitely a part of the family. Runs around inside the house, and he trusts it more than you would. To me, it looked more trustworthy than a dog, than a big dog.
I mean,
it's real affectionate.
And the thing about it too is that just like people, it's going to come down to the individual animal.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily. I don't think any animal would necessarily eat you if the circumstances were correct, but some of them absolutely would, because it's just like anything else. Like, some people have cats or dogs or other pets that are kind of assholes.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of what they're like. That's their personality type, just like humans. So maybe they'd be more likely to lash out, but then on the other hand, maybe there would be some that wouldn't do that.
He knows what he's doing though too. He's got habitats. He lets it socialize with other big cats. He's got a couple of other cats at the house. Different types. Some of them look like servals and big lynx type cats. He's got those. And they all just have fun there. But it looks like parts of the house look like a zoo, kind of. You know what I mean? Habitats and shit. He'll get a big inflatable swimming pool and fill it full of water and give him sturgeon. And he'll jump in there and try to catch sturgeon and ends up fucking the pool up. Because it's the claws will tear them down.
I have to buy so many.
He knows.
Pools,
there goes that pool, and the fucking water goes everywhere.
They're cheap. It's okay.
Every month, every month he gets a fucking pool and some sturgeon. So
I'm sure that cat's like, woo, it's like my birthday.
Yeah. Well, the first time he gave him the sturgeon in the swimming pool, and fucking the water got everywhere. He's jumping in the pool trying to fucking catch the sturgeon. Then it's like a 4-foot-long sturgeon in his mouth and shit. So what are you doing it now? And he's like, he's just holding this.
I don't know. I caught it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm proud of myself.
So it all depends on your relationship with that animal. It's the same with horses. Some people think horses are safe. In general, they are. I've run across some horses that are dangerous as fuck.
That's what I mean. Some of them are assholes, just like people.
But there's usually a stud, you know, somebody that hasn't been gelded, and they're got a lot of testosterone, and he's an alpha male, and he's not listening to no fucking human.
Yeah, so you get to cut their nuts off, and then everything will be fine.
But no, they have to be, because that's their job, is to breed.
Yeah.
You know, so you got to be real careful with some of those studs. They're just fucking mean, you know. They don't listen to people. That's not the idea. That's not their priority.
It's like, I'm bigger than you,
They're like, fuck you. Yeah.
I'm just going to kick you.
Yeah. And
tell me what to do.
There are dudes that up there in Canada and Alaska that own fucking giant fucking grizzly bears and fucking Kodiaks, and those bears fucking love that dude. You see that on video. Dude just keeps repeating, "You're a good bear." You're just fucking wrestling with the bear like a big clown. But you have to fucking have. But the thing is, not anybody could do that. It's that particular man and that particular bear. That particular bear is a
like I said, most of the time, probably that bear would just eat your face.
If that bear didn't know you, you'd be risking something probably. You know, if that man was with you, then maybe it'd be safer. But that thing was fucking huge.
Yeah, I still wouldn't really trust it. Because it's like, you know, I might smell like a snack, so I don't really know.
It might just decide that he doesn't really like you.
Yeah, it's like, I don't care if my friend is here or not. I'm still going to eat that bitch.
Yeah.
She smells delicious.
Yeah.
So Danny Rolling Ghostface says, birds of prey eat outside cats left and right. Fuck having your kitty an outdoor cat. Yeah. Honestly, when Pookie was small, we did actually worry about that. Although, when she went out on the back porch, we always had somebody, like, one of us was watching her. Yeah. So she wouldn't, like, wander off. And sometimes, we always, like, kept an eye on her with a flashlight and stuff, but...
So we got eagles here.
Yeah, because we got eagles. But now she's bigger. I don't worry about it as much. But honestly, since we've moved to this house, she doesn't really seem interested in going outside anymore.
She saw that dog one time.
Yeah, like next door they have 2 dogs, and like I said, they run around outside in the backyard. They look like they're inside most of the time, but sometimes they're out in the backyard and they're behind a fence and stuff. But they're very boisterous. And, so I guess Pookie, like, heard them, and she was just like, yeah, fuck going outside. So she'll sit up on the windows, like, on the second floor, like, on the windowsill and look out, but she doesn't scratch, she doesn't try to get out or try to go out the front door or anything like that. I think Beijing tried to go out one time, and she'll go out and sit on the back porch, but Pookie doesn't really seem to care. She's, like, kind of weirded out, I guess, by the new area, and she doesn't like... Because, I mean, this house, it's not like the old house where we had, all the trees and bushes and stuff like that. And then there were other houses with trees and bushes, like, really close by. So there was a lot of places for her to hide. This one, I mean, this place, we have a couple bushes around the outside, but it's really, really open. Like, it's this big, huge open yard. And maybe that freaks her out.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Because there's not really a lot of places for her to hide outside.
It looks like we got a good enough crowd now. It looks like people showed up. Let me go ahead and just talk. What are we talking about tonight?
We're doing kind of like a little bit of a pre-Halloween special, I guess. We're going to do like some kind of paranormal or some weird kind of shit like that. Mm-hmm. We're doing the so-called Mercy Brown vampire incident, otherwise known as the last vampire in New England.
I don't know that one.
Case. And we're also talking about Bridget Cleary, sometimes known as the Fairy murder or the Cleary changeling, something like that. It was like a murdered case that took place in Ireland, like back in the late 19th century. And there's like not a paranormal aspect to it necessarily, but there was some paranormal belief involved in how the murder took place.
Yeah. Hold on, one of my little gun fans in there said that wanted to point out that a strange thing about Russian laws is that they don't allow rifled barrels. Yeah, I remember back in the day, if I knew some dudes that worked at the Ishmash company in the early internet back in the 90s. The dude that I was talking about helped run Ishmash. and which is Russian, one of the Russian arsenals. He ended up dying though. He went by the name Tantal, and fucking he would sell all kinds of cool shit legally, just like rare magazine bodies and fucking a Bison magazine. I don't know if you remember the old fucking 9mm mag Bison. It was like an AK, short-barreled AK with a tubular magazine and 9mm Makarov that went underneath there. He was selling those, and those things were fucking super rare. And guys were assembling Bisons here, basically by hand in the 90s. Semi-auto versions. Anyway, what was weird is that it was all smoothbore what the civilians owned. So there were AKs like in fucking 410 shotgun and weird shit like that, or weird versions of like smoothbore AKs, but the bullets were rifled. They had all different ways to get around it. Anyway, last I heard from Russian guys is that they were changing those laws. They were going to allow rifles to be owned. That they're going through like a slow process of allowing Russian civilians to have rifled barrels. So I think, and they were gonna kind of introduce it slowly, evidently, but yeah, they're getting rid of some of those weird Russian laws. It wasn't normal for Russia to have strict gun control. Pre-Bolshevik Revolution, it was like America. Everybody had them. They gave them all up, and fucking those dudes ended up in camps. Don't give your shit up ever. Okay, go ahead. That's all I'm gonna say.
Victor said chickens eat mice, so if a chicken got big enough, it would probably eat a cat. Like a giant. I just had a weird. That's a terrible like fucking mental image. A giant chicken eating a cat. Yeah, and then they're talking about owls. Yeah, we have owls too. I haven't seen, like, I hear them a lot. Remember there was that pair of them that lived on the path that I used to walk on, and I would hear them calling back and forth to each other. They weren't super big though, but I have seen like some really big owls around here. Not so much, but I don't know. Yeah, so I do worry about Pookie. Honestly, I'm glad that since we moved to this house, she doesn't really seem to want to go OUT anymore.
She's having too much fun in here.
I mean, I can't say outside because she knows that word. So if she hears that, she might like think of it. So I always have to spell it until she figures out.
Elsa just showed up. We just talked about you, Elsa.
We were showing all the toys that you sent to Pookie. Oh my god.
Yeah, she loved that shit.
Pookie is so into.
We showed the toys and the temptations and.
I had to like all the little Halloween, like all the little orange mice and stuff like that. I had to like take them all out of the bag. They're all scattered all over the back of the floor over there because I was gonna leave in the bag so I could like show them on the show, but. Pookie was like insistent. She's like, open this bag like right now. She kept like scratching and scratching and scratching when I was trying to like record some shit. And I was kind of like, okay, fine. So I dumped all the stuff out, and then she was like flinging everything around and playing with all the crinkly balls. She's having a fucking great time.
I mentioned it earlier in the show. The back of that temptation box kind of settled my worries because, man, that's almost all she eats. I thought those things might have been like really high calorie,
like Oreos or something.
But
that's
they're
what
not.
I thought.
It says they're just like any other cat food. They can eat whole bowls of them. They're not even that high in calorie, really.
They're 2 calories per treat.
Yeah,
Which
they give you, they can live off of them. It's just a high quality cat food. I thought it was like crack or something.
That's what I mean. Like, I thought it was like the cat equivalent of Oreos, and I felt really bad because I was like, why would you eat your regular food?
Right.
It's like you put out like some wet food that we have like, the fancy feast or whatever, and she'll like kind of lick it, and she's like, meh. And then she wanders off, but then she's treats. She'll eat fucking bowls full of that shit.
Yeah, we've had people give us all different kinds of treats. She'll eat other treats, but nah, not for long.
The other thing she really
Temptations.
She likes Temptations, and she really likes those Sheba meat sticks.
Sheba meat sticks.
Like they come like 2 or 3 like in a packet.
Yeah.
And she loves those.
It's like beef jerky in a packet.
Yeah, they're like that long. She likes those. She'll eat like half and then leave half, and then she'll come back and eat the other half later.
We got sent like fish fillets of like fresh fish. She won't touch them.
She kind of likes those little dried fishies.
She likes the dried fishies a little bit, but she'll get sick of those. She'll eat one maybe every few days. If you give her too many of them, she goes, nah.
But the meat sticks, she actually asks for those. She'll like, because we keep them in the drawer by the bed, and she'll kind of be like, hey, can I have some of those?
Yeah.
So when you pull it out, she'll be like,
She hears the crinkle of the meat stick packets, Sheba meat sticks. She'll run for those. It's funny. She doesn't like real food. She likes processed type stuff. Like when I put that fish fillet out, I was like, oh, she's going to like this. And she went over there and smelled it and went, oh, no. That's not food.
Well, I've tried to even give her tuna out of a can and stuff, and she's just not super. She gets excited about it, like it smells good, because I'll open some to make a sandwich or something, and she'll be like, "Oh, what's that?" And
she'll lick it and go, "No."
And then she goes, "Nah," and she's like, "Not for Pookie."
Yeah, weird.
She's super weird. I don't know why. Well, and remember how Beijing she'll eat tuna. Beijing is really into Parmesan cheese. She really likes that Kraft Parmesan cheese.
Yeah, you pile it up in a little pile. She go there and just lick it all up.
She loves that shit. I don't know. It's so weird. I think there's cheese in those Temptations too. Yeah. Elsa's saying those tasty human ones are so funny. See, I first saw that and I thought they were fake, and I'm like, oh my god, that's so funny. I wish those were real, and they are real. So I'm really, really excited. And I love how on the back it says a disclaimer. It's there's not actually any human in it, so don't be alarmed. Zach's wondering what the biggest spider in the world is. I thought it was a Goliath spider, but I could be wrong about that.
It's like the size of a dinner plate.
Yeah, they're very, very big. Yeah. Although, like I said, sometimes they say, oh, it's big as a dinner plate, which sounds impressive until they're like, well, they're talking about their leg span as well as their body. I'm like, if you saw one whose body was as big as a dinner plate, then that would be a whole different kettle of fish. But
they were thinking it was camels, but camel spiders aren't that big.
Yeah, I didn't think camel spiders were that big. I thought a Goliath spider was about... I've seen pictures of the Goliath spider in somebody's hand, and they're way bigger than somebody's hand.
What they're talking about is there's a famous photograph of some guys from the first or second Gulf War. I call it the second Gulf War, where a guy has a fucking camel spider on the end of a rod, and he's holding it at a certain angle, dead on to the camera, and it's forced perspective. It looks like bigger than it's the size of a huge fucking crab, or a fucking Alaskan king crab, it's 2 feet long, with its legs. It's not. It's about 4 inches long, 3 inches long. And from there on out, people thought that these crab spiders were huge. They're not. It's just the perspective of that fucking forced perspective of that fucking shot. Famous photo. They're not very big. They're not even very dangerous. They'll bite, but not that bad. You usually wake up.
Marco says camel spiders aren't even spiders, I think. Yeah, they might be scorpions.
It's a scorpion.
Yeah, I thought it was.
It's a scorpion without a tail.
And Victor says in that pic there's 2 of them holding on to each other.
There's 2 of them holding together,
Okay.
Makes it look even bigger.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure, like I said, I could be wrong. It's been a while since I used to have all those safari cards and shit like that, so I was a real dork about all the animals and stuff. Back in the day, the Goliath spider was the largest spider, but I don't know if they've found a bigger one since then. And they are about, I can't remember offhand how big they are, but they're really, I mean, if you saw one, you would shit your pants probably. If you saw one in your bathtub or something.
Now, what would really scare me is be down there fucking diving, deep sea diving, and turn around and see one of those damn Alaskan king crabs with a fucking 12-foot fucking arm span, fuck that. And that's a huge fucking underwater spider. There it is.
For some reason, they don't scare me, I guess. Maybe because they're so delicious. Yeah. If I saw it, I'd be like, I'm gonna eat you.
It's just funny, when you see them all assembled and you see them fucking moving.
When you see them all assembled.
Yeah, they're like, that's a fucking spider.
When you see them all assembled.
It's a water spider.
Like a Lego, yeah.
Yeah.
Gramthor's Hammer said, I saw fruit bats when I went to South Africa. They were like flying cats. Yeah, fruit bats are really big. I saw some at Animal Kingdom or Busch Gardens or something like that. They have this huge enclosure that has all these fruit bats, so flying foxes and stuff like that.
Flying foxes,
yeah, and those shit look really, really big. I thought they were super adorable though.
Yeah, they make great pets.
They have cute little faces. Yeah, and I was like, oh, I kind of want one.
The people have own them, and they'll keep them in a refrigerator hanging upside down, put the refrigerator on low because they like it cool and dark. And they'll let them out.
Just like me.
Yep, and they're real cuddly and affectionate and fucking just like a, not even like a mouse, more like a cat or something.
Yeah, like I said, it's like a kitty except with wings.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah, but they'll just sit there like a baby, petting them, and the women are going, "Oh, you're so cute." And it's curled up, going, "Yeah."
Yeah, I know, I'm cute. Holy crap! Pookie would probably love that if we got another little thing that
fruit bat.
It's it's like a kitty, but it can fly.
Yeah. It's got a face that looks like a dog or a fox, it's called a flying fox, and you feed them, they're feeding them, and they're looking at your big old eyes, like, "Oh, thank you." They're fucking adorable.
I just thought bats were super cute.
Yeah, I know some of them are fucking ugly, but
they're not. They're ugly in a way that's cute though. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
there's kind of an ugly that's also kind of cute with their little upturned noses and stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever.
The flying fox is not even dealing with a bat, more like dealing with a dog or something.
Yeah, like I said, it looks like a little dog or
Little
cat,
dog
but
or
that
cat,
can fly.
yeah.
Holy crap! Can you imagine if Pookie could fly? How much trouble she'd get into?
Yeah.
She gets into enough trouble as it is with just her little feet. Holy crap! I think because of the stuff that Ilsa sent her with, that probably all of it had catnip in it. So she got like super hepped up on the catnip. So she has been like running all over this house. Like, because I kept doing the Bonanza theme at her because it sounds like a little horse, like a herd of horses coming at me, like coming down the hall, running and jumping over all the boxes and stuff, going, "Where's all the toys? Where's all the toys?" She's like been doing that all day. She's freaking crazy.
Yeah, some of those king crabs are like 12 feet across. I mean, if you were standing next to it, you'd run from it.
So
if
much,
it was on the ground.
So much delicious meat.
Yeah.
I'm coming at him with like with a stick of butter. No.
The body was bigger, big as a flattened out basketball,
Mm-hmm.
Big old fucking legs and shit. Fuck that.
Ilsa said, "Yeah, I wanted to drug Pookie up."
Yeah.
I know she's gonna be up all night now, probably like climbing all over us and everything.
Yeah.
I think last night when we got home, because we went to Rifftrax live last night, so we didn't get home until kind of late. And I was like really sleepy, and I'm going to sleep, and all of a sudden I feel Pookie's little legs, and she like climbs up my body, and then she's sitting there like on my shoulder because I was laying on my side, and I hear Tom go, "Pookie, don't stand on your mommy."
Yeah. Just standing on her.
like I said,
standing there.
I claim this person for Pookie.
Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous.
She doesn't like when I lay on my side. If I'm laying on my side, she'll like kind of climb up and she stands on my shoulder and just kind of stands there.
Yeah.
She's like, she likes it if I lay on my back so she can lay on my chest and make biscuits.
I saw the whole thing fucking happen. She got on the fucking foot of the bed and walked up and climbed up on top of her and walked right up to her shoulder and just stood there.
And just stood there.
Looking down at her.
Yep.
I was like, "What are you doing? Don't stand on your mom."
She will, though. That's why, because she's like, "Turn over on your back, mommy." She's like, "I want to lay on your chest and make biscuits." Somebody asked, what was the Rifftrax movie? Oh, it was...
Oh, that was a good one.
Amityville, The Evil Escapes.
Amityville 4.
Amityville 4.
Oh, man, that movie.
That was a good one, man. That was that was like one of the funniest ones we were bound to.
It starred old people, old women.
We need to talk about this for a second because
it starred Spock's mom.
Spock's mom was in it.
Yeah.
Patty Duke was in it.
A 50-something-year-old Patty Duke.
Yeah, and some really strange children in some really, really tragic 80s fashions.
Oh man, that fucking 80s fashion was fucking torrid. I can
Wow.
remember it, man. It fucking look, hey. Grabbers, you took me right back to 1986, 87, like fucking Trenton High School. With the fucking fringe jackets and those fucking boots with the fucking fringe. That the
Everything
girls
was
used to
like
wear.
super puffy.
Puffy fucking shoulder pads.
Big puffy tennis shoes.
Old women with fucking headbands, rough rolled up headbands.
And big, huge, chunky statement jewelry that's like this
jewelry,
big.
Just like fucking Madge and the Golden Girls and shit. The decor of the houses was just fucking trinkets everywhere, jam-packed little fucking tables with fucking everything on them and boomer bling, just fucking boomer bling all over the fucking house. And then they had like the teenage girl who couldn't walk, just this fucking crazy ass walk.
Yeah, what was the deal with that?
Shoulders way back to try to get her boobs as high up as she could. And she was like a second-rate kind of fucking the girl from fucking Terminator. What was I calling her? Linda Hamilton. She was kind of like a second-rate Linda.
But with a really weird, I don't know, like her jawline was very strange.
She had a big jaw with a little bitty chin.
I didn't know if that, I mean, it didn't look natural. I guess it could be.
She just had a real fucking square jaw, but she was very lean, and she had a very protruding chin.
Like she had like this really big square jaw and like this little bitty tiny like kind of. It was so weird looking.
It was. I think it was
not bad. It was just weird looking.
Linda Hamilton had a face like that, just not quite as extreme. She had an extreme version. It was like you I want to say you took Linda Hamilton and put her in a fun house. You took Linda Hamilton and you maybe like face tuned her. In a funny way. That's what she kind of looked like.
Yeah, it looked a little unnatural. Yeah. And maybe it was natural, I don't know.
Natural.
But
she was only about 16, 17 maybe.
But it didn't look like. It looked like a really strange, like, surgical choice.
Yeah, it did, but it wasn't. It was just she was real young and lean.
And he knew Amityville 4, that was the lamp one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is what, okay, so before, I hadn't seen Amityville 4. I saw the first one, and I saw a couple of the other ones, but I'd never seen this one. So when I saw that the subtitle was The Evil Escapes, when we were on the way to the theater, I told Tom, I said, I bet you that this is one of those things that you see in a lot of kind of like B and C list horror franchises where they just buy some cheap ass script that didn't have anything to do with the franchise and then like tweak it to have something to do with the franchise. And so it's like it doesn't have anything to do. There's no continuity or anything.
Yeah, she called it, man, right from the title.
I said, well, if it was me and somebody like, you know, and I had to do that, it's like, yeah, we'll call it The Evil Escapes. That way we don't have to film it in the actual Amityville house or have anything to do with the original story.
She called it. That's what happened.
Yeah. So, well, you know, I'm well versed in this horror kind of shit. And like I said, these kind of like cheap ass franchise, not like your A-list franchises, okay? Like your, you know, Nightmare on Elm Streets or your Friday the 13th. I'm talking about like your, you know, Children of the Corn, you know, Puppet Master, like, you know, the kind of like C and D list kind of franchises, which some of which are still good, but they have like 40 bajillion sequels, and I don't even know how many Amityville movies there are, a shit ton.
Too many.
So, yeah, so the whole premise of this one, it was a bunch of old women.
That's the best way to put it.
Everybody's an old woman in this.
It really bogs the movie down. It really bogs the movie down.
It was Old Battle Axes, the movie. But, you know, nothing against old women. I'm also an old woman. So I'm just saying.
You can't use old. Well, no, they were really old.
Well, yeah, I'm talking about, like really old, like elderly.
You just can't make a movie. You can't make a driving movie around a bunch of women in their 70s. It's just not going to work.
Yeah, and, you know, so the whole premise of this was that there is this horrifyingly ugly lamp that was in the original Amityville house
that you never saw.
And so, yeah.
That you never saw.
And somebody, because, yeah, you would definitely remember this lamp.
Yeah, I never saw that shit.
Because that lamp was something else.
Yeah.
So the lamp is in a garage sale. Somebody buys it and ships it out to their sister, aunt, somebody in California.
Yeah, in Palos Verdes.
Yeah, and the lamp is possessed by a demon or something. Yeah. So it's basically Haunted Lamp, the movie, only we tacked on some Amityville
I didn't have time to explain to Jenny, but some of the establishing shots of where the house in California is supposed to be, we're out in the middle of nowhere. And I went, no, you're not. That's Palos Verdes. And fucking, I know that's right where my dad used to take me to watch the people jumping off the cliff with the hang gliders.
Yeah.
All right. I almost fell off that cliff a couple times, like as a little kid. That was a trip. And I got left there as a little kid. My dad, I got in the back of the camper.
Yeah, it's like, fuck that kid.
Yeah. Got back in the camper.
I don't need this kid anymore. Someone will pick him up. It'll be fine.
Waiting for us to leave, and we never did leave. And I jumped out the back, see where my dad went, and all of a sudden the fucking camper took off.
Oh my God, it was like an urban legend.
Yeah, then I got left there. I was about fucking 5. So I went running up the hill, and that little hill where they were driving up to go down there with the parking lot, it was in that parking lot. I ran up that hill, and they had the old couple up there selling fruit. And the old lady was, I can remember, I was crying my fucking eyes out like 5. She goes, oh, you got left here, didn't you? I was like, yeah. Oh, don't worry, they'll be back. And I just sit up there with the old lady and the old man. He'll be back. And they were right. Fucking my dad came back. What the hell happened?
What if he hadn't come back?
I ran
what if
out,
he just like, oh, well.
My mom would have kicked his ass. Yeah.
I can start again. I can have another kid.
Yeah. I jumped out the back of the camper.
Well, that's your fault.
It was my fault. Yeah.
That's what I mean. That wasn't your parents' fault.
No, he didn't know. He didn't know that I got out.
They decided to be like, oh, well.
Yeah. But that parking lot and that fucking road that went up twice, I remember that was from my childhood. I used to go there all the time.
Yeah.
It's funny, huh?
That's pretty funny.
And that house is not there.
Well, obviously,
no.
they do that a lot.
No, that house
like establishing shots, but then they film it's the house like some other fucking place.
Right off from that thing is the fucking highway. They think it wasn't 101. I think it's further in, but there's a highway right there.
And also before they did the movie, because they usually do a short so they can like have a 2-hour presentation if the movie's not long enough. So they did a short beforehand, and they did an industrial accident short. And that was one of the weirdest fucking things I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of like weird industrial accident shorts. Yeah. For whatever reason, like the dude in this who stuck his hand in a machine and got his fingers cut off. But that wasn't even like the main point of the thing. The main point of the thing was that this dude was super obsessed with tomatoes, and they came in a fruit basket. And many times in this short, which was only probably like 8 minutes long, there were many kind of instances of him eating a tomato as though it was an apple, except putting salt on it. And them talking about how much he loved tomatoes, and his daughter made him a fruit basket, which had normal fruit in it, but then also had tomatoes. So, I know tomatoes are a fruit, okay? I know that. But nobody puts them in fucking fruit baskets, so.
I'm making some moderators because we don't have any.
Oh, okay. Yeah, oh yeah, with some of our... I thought some of the people...
Zach's
I thought Zach was a moderator.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
just
one,
making
right?
sure we have several.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
What is it? If it's blue, they're a moderator, right?
That's what I said.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just making sure
You
we
didn't
have
say
enough.
that. I just said that.
Okay.
Yeah, he might come. Yeah, some of those accident shorts are hilarious. They're all, like, really funny. I can't even... We just had, like, this big, long discussion about it on the way home. They did a lot of those on MST, and I was like, I always really like when they dig up a new one, because those fucking things are so fucking weird. Sheila Ann said my uncle ate tomatoes like that. Maybe that was a thing back then. You know? I never really heard of that. Like, I love tomatoes as much as the next person, but I never saw anybody eat them like an apple. I mean, I've seen people eat that, like, slice them and, like, eat them with salt or cottage cheese or something on them, but I've never really seen anybody just pick them up out of a fruit basket and be like, ooh.
That was some old
school. That's a little bit weird.
That was some old school shit. That was like pre-grandparents. That was when tomatoes were exotic. They didn't have Italian food. It wasn't in the mainstream, so they weren't.
This is when they still thought they were poisonous.
Yeah. No, I think the only thing. Tomatoes were considered fruit then. I remember.
Well, they are fruit, technically.
They are fruit.
I know.
But they just weren't making Italian tomato sauces. The closest thing to Italian tomato sauce that they'd have been eating would have been tomato soup. Creamy tomato soup.
Yeah.
They'd have made that.
Ilsa says cucumbers and salt are great. I agree. Yeah. Honestly, I really love... One of my favorite sandwiches is just a bagel with cucumbers and a little bit of cream cheese on it, like plain cream cheese, and some salt. That shit's delicious. I don't know why. It's just really, really refreshing. So, yeah, we've been going almost an hour already. How'd that happen?
Yeah, it's time to go.
So you want to, like, talk about some of these cases? Everybody's like, a lot of people said they hadn't really heard about these cases.
I haven't heard about them either.
So I had heard about the Mercy Brown case, and I think, like I said, Rob said earlier that he had sent me a picture of her gravestone, which you can still visit in Rhode Island, by the way. So I had been wanting to cover this for a while. I think I put it in the poll like a bunch of times, but it never won. But this time it won because it was Halloween. And also I put in like the whole Cleary changeling thing because I just saw some old like one of those creepy weird history shows on Netflix or something or Tubi. And I saw this case on there. I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of remember hearing about that, the Cleary changeling. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe I'll throw that in there too because the Mercy Brown vampire case, it's not like super complicated. So I want to do like a couple kind of creepy things like that because, you know, it's Halloween week. Cucumber tea sandwiches. Yeah, big time. Those are really, really good. Yeah, so a lot of people are saying that people back in the day, like their grandparents and stuff, used to eat tomatoes like that.
Yeah.
Huh. That's really odd. I'd never seen anybody eat tomatoes like that. Like I said, I'd seen people slice them up and eat them, you know, just like on the side of something.
Well, they were also eating kumquats like that.
Yeah, but I never saw anybody pick one up out of a fruit basket and just eat it like that. Yeah. I just thought that was kind of strange. Yeah, I didn't like tomatoes when I was a kid either. I just like
in the South. I remember them eating them like that right out of the garden, and they did the same thing with cucumbers.
Yeah,
they just hit it with a what do you call it? A carrot peeler.
Yeah,
and take the skin off of it. They sprinkle salt on it.
I can see that.
And just start eating it. Yeah.
Which probably looks super dirty if you're like watching it.
Well, they weren't thinking along those lines. They were just crunch, eating it like it was, you know, fucking like almost like a corn on the cob, but just eating the whole thing. They eat corn on the cob like that too, of course.
Yeah.
Just to get an ear of corn and just boil it.
Mm.
And then just take it and rub it across that hot corn cob. Just fucking rub it across the top of fucking some butter.
Yeah.
A stick of butter.
Well, yeah, we did that.
Sprinkle salt and pepper on it, or fucking Cajun seasoning, and just go to town on it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're throwing it in with the crab boil too and the shrimp boil.
Man,
and potatoes.
We need to do that shit again.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
We keep talking about that.
You need to get some steaks. You need to get some shrimp.
Man, I haven't had a big old steak in a really long time.
Get some potatoes and some corn on the cob and just boil it all and make a damn shrimp boil.
Mm. That would be really, really good. Sorry, here's somebody outside yelling. Must be one of our neighbors. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tammy says pick the cucumber young enough, you don't even need to peel it.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, I think you can technically eat the peels, but I think it kind of like upsets your stomach.
Yeah, they're kind of tough.
Yeah. It's like hard to digest.
Yeah.
It's roughage.
Yeah. If you slice them long ways, or thin ways, you know what I mean? There's not much on the outside, you can eat that. But if you're just crunching it, trying to bite it with your teeth, it's kind of tough.
Because sometimes if you go to like a restaurant, sometimes they have salads where it looks like they haven't really bothered peeling the cucumbers. They just like cut them, like in coins like that, but they still have the rind on the outside.
Yeah, or part of the rind.
Yeah, which,
It has stripes or something.
Like I said, it probably just...
Yeah.
I think it's just like hard to digest, that's all. All right, so let's talk about the Mercy Brown vampire incident. And honestly, this was kind of like the last one of these incidents, I guess, and this is several hundred years after the whole Salem witch trial debacle. But apparently there was kind of like a little mini run on everybody suddenly thinking that there were vampires running around for a little while in New England, like right around the end of the 19th century, which, in case you're counting, is not really that long ago. People actually still kind of believed in vampires. And it all had to do with tuberculosis, because they didn't really understand like what caused it or how to cure it or anything like that. So I guess it was like a lot of farmers and a lot of kind of rural people, and they were just kind of like saw some weird shit going on, and they're just like, obviously vampires. That, which is obviously the first conclusion that you would jump to. Sure. So this happened, the Mercy Brown incident, which, like I said, she's kind of called the last vampire in New England. There were some before this, which I'll get into in a little bit, but this is like the most famous one. So this happened in the very late 1800s in Exeter, Rhode Island. So there's this farmer named George Brown, and he lived on a farm with his family. And in 1883, his wife, Mary, she died of tuberculosis, which obviously then was known as consumption. So that was 1883. 6 months after that, his daughter, who was named Mary Olive, she was 20 years old. She also died of consumption. Now, then he had a son named Edwin, and he seemed to be like getting the same kind of symptoms. So he started getting like thinner and weaker and paler over like the winter of 1892. Now, while he was sick and convalescing, George's other daughter, whose name was Mercy Brown, she had actually been sick for a year, and she died in January of 1892, at which point Edwin was the only kid that was like, he was an adult, but, he was the only one of George's kids that was still left alive. So he was understandably kind of freaking out because, his 3 daughters are dead, his wife is dead, or his 2 daughters are dead, his wife is dead, and now his son looks to be going the same way. So they send Edwin away to Colorado Springs because back then they thought, if you were sick, you had to go somewhere like dry and hot, like that was going to fix you. So Edwin goes out to Colorado Springs for like a year and a half and seemed to get a little bit better, but not really. And he was, I guess, kind of like homesick and stuff. So he ended up coming back home like in 1890. I think it was 1892, like spring of 1892. So, like I said, Edwin's getting sick. The dad is kind of like, they know that it's a disease, I guess, because like I said, they called it consumption, but they didn't know what caused it. They didn't know what cured it. And they didn't really seem to understand how contagious it was. Because it was very, very common around this time period for whole families to be wiped out by consumption. Because, like I said, you all live in the same house. You're all breathing the same air and drinking the same water and shit like that. So, obviously, shit's going to pass around. But having your whole family wiped out, that's kind of alarming. So, people are looking for someone to blame. Something they can kind of, like, get a handle on, I guess, because they don't really understand what's causing. Yeah, that's what I mean, because they don't really understand what's causing it. It's like my whole fucking family is dead, right? Now, Edwin, like I said, he kind of lingered for like a year and a half with it, and he eventually ended up, passing away. So after he died, so George is the only one left. His wife is dead, and all his grown kids are dead at this point. So even though this wasn't entirely George's idea at first, but all the other townsfolk in Exeter, they started getting the idea that, well, there's probably a vampire out running around. You have to think that a lot of the, the people that lived in New England at this time were, immigrants or were, descended from immigrants, like European immigrants. So they had kind of brought a lot of these sort of superstitions with them. And one of the main superstitions, I kind of feel like the vampire lore, this is not really something that's big in vampire lore anymore. But back in the day, one of the big things that in vampire lore was that when a vampire came back from the grave, it would go after its own family members first and like pick them off one by one. You know what I mean? So I kind of feel like that's not real commonly known anymore. But that was actually a big part of vampire lore back in the day, that your family was in the biggest, was the biggest threat. You were the biggest threat to them. You were going to come back and get them specifically and just like take them one at a time and drain them. So what the family members would do is that if their family member died, they would do kind of like all kind of crazy shit to keep them from coming back and like eating the rest of the family. Like they would cut their heads off, or they would like cut their bodies up, or, bury them at crossroads. They'd bury them like face down, like, you know what I mean? Like straight up and down like that. So they couldn't get out. They would do that kind of, or bury them face down. So they would like dig into the earth instead of out. They would do all kind of crazy shit like that. Even into the late 19th century, into a supposedly more enlightened era, they were still, at least in rural areas, I guess, they were still like thinking about this because they thought, well, they're going to come back and eat us. So we better do something about that. So all the townspeople believed, they said, okay, well, obviously your whole family's dead, so one of your relatives who died must be Nosferatu. So we gotta check and see which one it is. George Brown, not real jazzed about this idea. He's just kind of, I don't think he entirely believed it, at least according to the records of the time. But because he didn't really have a better explanation, I guess, he was just kind of like, okay, well, whatever. I guess we gotta like kind of, do whatever we can do to like figure out what the fuck is going on. So he let the townspeople go and dig up his whole entire family. So they dig up the wife, and they dig up Mary Olive, who was, his other daughter. Now, so this was in later March, like 1892. So they dig up the Mary, who was the mom, and Mary Olive, who was the daughter. She was 20. So they opened their caskets up, and those two were obviously skeletonized because they'd been in there longer. So, not a surprise that they were kind of like all skeletons. So then they decide, well, now we're going to dig up Mercy Brown, who had only been dead for 8 weeks at this point.
Oh, shit, she's still fresh.
Yeah. Right. Well, so they dig her up, and so what ended up happening, so the thing about it is that I'm not really sure, because there's two different accounts of this from the time period. Like I said, it was a long time ago. Some of the accounts said that she was buried. Some of them said that the ground was still frozen, so they couldn't bury her, so she was just like in a crypt or whatever. So whatever the case, they either dug her up or they went to the crypt and they moved like the lid or the coffin or whatever. And they found inside her coffin that Mercy's body was laying on its side rather than presumably on her back, the way they had buried her. Also, her face looked like it was kind of like, a little pink in the cheeks and stuff like that. And also still found blood in her veins. So, like I said, she'd only been dead 8 weeks, which is a long time. I mean, she probably was like kind of rotten and stuff, but you have to think this is New England and it's only March. It's cold, yeah. So it's still kind of cold out. Yeah. So, she wouldn't have been like all like putrefied or anything like that, you would think. Yeah. Yeah. Now, there was a doctor at the time, Dr. Metcalf, who didn't he was actually the voice of reason at the time. He's like, he didn't truck with this vampire nonsense. So he's like, look, it's like she hasn't been dead that long. It's cold out. A body doesn't decompose that quickly in these conditions. So just everybody please calm down. But of course, nobody listened to that.
Yeah, right.
So they're like, no, we want to kill a vampire. Come on, God damn it. Don't spoil the fun. And basically, I think that the townspeople, too, were like, well, we're not going to listen to the doctor because he could have saved all the family from dying from this, this consumption disease, and he didn't do shit, so obviously he doesn't know what he's talking about. So there was that whole issue as well. So they weren't real... I guess I can kind of see it, because maybe they thought, well, medical science had failed them. He didn't prevent George's whole entire family from dying of this same disease. So, obviously he's not really that much of an expert, so how much could he know? So, yeah, so they thought, well, because there's still... Oh, thank you. Because there's still blood in Mercy's heart and veins... then that obviously meant that she was the culprit. She was the vampire. Although you would think that if she was supposedly a vampire, you'd think that the blood would be in her stomach. But I don't know. Maybe they didn't really know how vampires work. They're like, no, they suck the blood from the people and then the blood goes into the heart. That's how vampires work, obviously. Don't you know? So, I don't know. I'm just making shit up. But yeah, so she still had blood there and she didn't look all decomposed and rotten. So they figured that she was... killing everybody. So basically they're like, okay, well, this is, the Nosferatu here, so we're going to do something about it. So they get a bunch of firewood and basically just started a big bonfire right there right next to the cemetery, wherever they dug the body up or whatever. Then they cut out Mercy's heart and they cut out her lungs, just to be on the safe side, apparently. And burned them in the fire. So at this point, like I said, I think I said that Edwin had died. He hadn't at this point. He was still alive, but he was like really, really sick. So this was another thing that was really common back then, was that if you thought that the vampire who was your relative was the one that was draining all the family, then there were all these like weird like witchcrafty kind of spells and shit that you could do. So they cut out her heart and lungs and burned them. And then they made, like, the ashes that they got from burning her heart and lungs, they took that and they mixed it up with water, like you do, and then they made Edwin drink it.
Yeah, I remember this shit.
Yeah, so Edwin had to drink his sister's burned heart and lungs in water because that was supposed to cure him of the disease. Because, of course, makes total sense. Really, when you think about it.
Well, that's all they were working with.
I guess so.
Here, drink that. That'll work.
It's like, well, they're just trying shit.
Yeah.
Ilsa said, what time of year was it? It was March. So, yeah, and this was Rhode Island, so it was probably still kind of cold.
Yeah, it was refrigerating temperature.
Ilsa also said, I saw a show about that recently, like some elderly people in Eastern Europe digging up relatives and like putting a stake through their hearts or something from the 2000s. Yeah, I mean, there are still parts of the world where they do, just to be on the safe side. You never know.
Yeah, and burning parts of them.
Well, that's what they're doing. I mean, just in case. I mean, you never know, that relative might be a vampire,
right?
A vampire. You got to fucking go in there and take it out. They're dead. They don't care. Just like I said, just be on the safe side. So yeah, so they give poor Edwin, who's already like sick and has been sick for like a year and a half and is probably just like, fuck this, like fuck my life, I hope I can fucking die because I'm just like sick of this crap. But so they made him drink this horrible concoction. Here, drink your sister's burned internal organs. I'm sure that'll make you feel better, right?
I think it's so funny because the vampire and the vampire and all that kind of stuff and the Nosferatu, that's not the original.
No.
The original was the Strigoi.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. If you want to see a movie about a Strigoi, go look at Blood Vessel. It's a good one. It's kind of a recent movie. I liked it.
Yeah, it's on Shudder. I think it just came out a year or two ago.
Yeah, Strigoi was a lot cooler than a vampire. They should have kept with the original.
Yeah, I mean, I get it that they kind of made them all sexy and stuff. That's cool, but, I like them more when they're monstery. I like monstery stuff better.
The Strigoi was like a rat or a bat and a demon, and he was a sorcerer. And what was funny is that he could be either living or undead or a mixture. He could be half undead and half living. He could have children. He could have children with other stragoi. He could have children with living women and give birth to living children. He could have sex and have children with dead women. That's some shit. Think of that. Not even undead. Dead.
Now that's some pansexual shit.
Yeah, I'm gonna knock this bitch up. That's how hot this is. I'm gonna knock this, and then it's a corpse, and then it has a child. That's a fucking hell of a sperm right there. That's
it is
hellacious sperm.
It's magical. Yeah, it's can totally. You can totally
right.
have a dead woman.
Had dead women give birth to your children. Jesus Christ.
And you don't have to like even go through any of the custody battles or anything like that. It's win-win.
No. And then you piss him off, and he'll start doing some voodoo. Remember that? He'll just start. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna make a magic spell.
He's like, oh, and also I'm a mummy.
Yeah, and I'm a mummy.
And a werewolf.
And I'm a sorcerer. And a werewolf.
Not really. We're just
Stragoi is a lot better than a vampire.
Juan asked if Catzilla was a movie. No, it's not. I wish it was. Yeah. But I don't know. I just liked this shirt design. This little kitty going, rawr. That's like, I don't know. It's like, that's like kind of fucking funny. Some powerful sperm. Yeah, I saw something else that that made me laugh. But yeah. Yeah. I mean, they might not be dead either. Better safe than sorry. Yeah, I'm just, I'm just saying. So Edwin has to drink this concoction. Can you imagine laying in bed feeling like absolute ass for like 18 months with tuberculosis, for Christ's sake? You're just like, you're losing weight, you're pale, you're coughing up blood every 5 fucking seconds. You feel just terrible. And then all of a sudden they bring in this horrible shit that's supposed to like be magical and make you feel better. Spoiler alert, it didn't help. He suffered for another 2 months after they made him drink that crap, and then he died anyway. So, again, was she a vampire? No. But this was the last time that this happened in New England, but it had happened previous to this. What happened, there was one case, and it was also in Rhode Island in 1799, and I think it was the same town, too, Exeter. So this town has a problem with believing in vampires. I don't know. So 1799, there was this woman named Sarah Tillinghast, and she had died, and for whatever reason, everybody thought she was a vampire, too. So they dug her ass up. And that's kind of like one of the first ones. I guess I was like reading this thing where there was this historian, and she said, because there's a thing that's called like the New England vampire panic. And it was kind of like the Salem witch trials. This is like 200 years later, where mostly because of the tuberculosis plague that kind of went through the area at the time, there was kind of like this little mini boomlet of everybody thinking that was fucking vampires, you know what I mean? So there was kind of, there were 18 documented cases. There might have been some that were not documented. But there were 18 documented cases of family members digging up their other family members who had died previously because they thought that family member was like walking around at night and like draining people's blood and shit like that, like from the other family members. So what ended up happening with Mercy Brown after they cut her heart out and lungs and made her poor brother drink it, they ended up, burying her again, like without her heart, and her tombstone is still there. You can see it. I used the photograph of it in the whatever for this, the thumbnail. And also, like I said, it's that there's just this, okay, so there was this other dude, and this also happened in Rhode Island. I don't know what the fuck's wrong with Rhode Island. Anybody's from there, just like let me know. There was this other dude named William Rose who lived in Rhode Island, and this was a little bit before that. This was like 1874. And his daughter Juliet died. I don't know if it was tuberculosis. It might have been some other sickness or something that kind of mimicked that. I didn't realize it wasn't really recorded. Now, so Juliet died, and then she had a sister named Mary, and Mary also died with what looked like the same thing. So I'm presuming it's probably like tuberculosis. But instead of thinking, see, it's so weird to me that they didn't think at the time, oh, we all live in the same house, we're all like sharing the same germs. And I guess that wasn't really like something that would occur to them. I mean, it seems very obvious to us nowadays, but maybe it wasn't, because it's like, you know, you live in the same house, you get the same diseases, right? So Juliet dies, and then Mary gets sick with what seems like the same thing. The first thing the dad jumps to is that, oh, Juliet must be coming back from the grave and draining her life energy. Because, of course, that's the first thing you would think, because that's the more obvious thing. I mean, I don't know. That's like fucking, I don't understand it. So he goes to Juliet's grave to check out this situation. And apparently he said that he saw Juliet's ghost floating above the grave, almost kind of like, that's right, Dad, come get it. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm doing that. This is what he said anyway. I think he's making shit up. So at that point, he sees the ghost there, he says. So he digs up her grave, and he said that when he dug her up, this is his daughter, by the way, he dug her up, and her body was all covered with blood for some reason. So obviously, she's a vampire. So again, he did the same thing. He cut her heart out and burned it. Now, in this case, it worked. Mary got better. So obviously that dude was like never disabused of his superstition, because he's like, oh, see, I took care of the situation. My other daughter was coming and feeding on my younger daughter, so I went and cut the heart out and I fixed it, because now my daughter's better and it's fine.
Well, shit happens within the mind.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm sure, obviously, it was just a coincidence that happened, but, you know, because some people did recover from tuberculosis. It's just that...
It was rare.
It was rare. Most people did die from it. Honestly, nowadays, like, every time you see... I'm thinking of that movie, Moulin Rouge. I remember the first time that I saw that in the theater. The second somebody coughs and there's, like, a little drop of blood in a handkerchief, I'm like, oh, they're dead.
Yeah.
That's, you know, that was, like, shorthand for that person's dead now because it's tuberculosis.
Yeah. Although, you know what's funny is that based on what I know about nutrition and everything and fucking what, I don't think that tuberculosis would kill modern people at the rate that it killed people from that era. I mean, they had very low protein diets. The hygiene was kind of bad. It was not a very... They were kind of weakened to begin with. They died from shit. And also just not knowing. You know what I mean? Just basic shit. I think helped add to the mortality of fucking tuberculosis a lot, you know. They would do things to them that they thought would cure them that was making it worse, you know, bloodletting and shit like that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and it's weird because, I mean, obviously it's easy to, like, make fun of people from our time because it's like we know so much more than they know. But a lot of the shit they did, I can understand, like, how they got from point A to point B, even though it's dumb and wrong. But some of the shit they did, I just didn't... I don't know. It's hard because we grew up knowing very germs cause disease. You know, don't breathe on other people. Don't, you know, wash your hands. Do this kind of stuff. So it seems obvious.
Well, also a sick person, you want to wash their bedclothes and fucking bathe them a lot. And, you know, keep them from fucking... You know what I mean? Get rid of fucking open sewage from the fucking room. Which, like I said,
that would seem like fucking self-evident.
No, it would be underneath that bed would be a fucking chamber pot full of turds and piss and all kinds of shit, and flies would be flying around in there. They were dirty, you know, even when they didn't really know it.
I mean, animals don't even do that.
Yeah, and then they were eating food that was bad, unsanitary, bad cleaning practices. Cooking shit with fucking dirty hands, and just... Not to say that fucking TB isn't deadly. TB is a fucking deadly disease.
It is. No one's saying that.
Their practices made it less survivable. It made everything less survivable. I'd imagine just with basic knowledge of fucking hygiene and how medicine works and how it doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like, bloodletting does not work. Drinking fucking caustic chemicals doesn't work. You probably would have saved a lot more people had you just done nothing. Just kept them clean and well fed and let them rest. Probably would have saved a lot of them.
And honestly, you are not the first person to say that. I've heard, like, many historians and writers and stuff. They said, you know what? It's like some of the shit that they did, like, prior to them figuring out the germ theory of disease. Yeah. They said, honestly, it probably would have been better just, like, leave those people and not touch them. Because a lot of the shit that they did to them was making it worse.
Yeah. I mean... A truly deadly disease is only usually about 30% fatal, and that's fucking deadly. Well, 30%, that's pretty good odds. But not with the medicine they had back then.
Now with them like, hey,
made it worse.
Let me rub my hand on my ass and then reach around in your insides.
Yeah, you might move mortality up to 70% under those conditions. You know, so it would not have been the same disease, tuberculosis, had it been under normal modern conditions.
I mean, like we said before, and I was talking about the last show because I said I had reread Drood, which was set in Victorian era London, and he kind of talks about in that book like the Great Stink and everything like that, where the streets were just, even where the upper class people lived, everything was just lined with sewage. Everything was just like shit, like horse shit, human shit, dog shit. Everything was just shit, and everything stunk, and you know, and there were dead bodies floating in the Thames. Everybody just threw like, chemicals and crap and everything in the Thames, and everything smelled terrible, and no one really did anything about it. Everyone was like, well, that's just the way it goes. No one thought to, like, not do that.
They cooked and canned rotten meat along with the good meat.
Yeah.
And sold that. You know, it'd be all right. You know, the mentality of the era was not the same.
I'm honestly shocked that any of them lived past 30. You know, to me, I don't. How did they survive? Even like I mean, I guess like living in filth, kind of like ups your immune system to a degree.
Yeah, there's diminishing returns though.
But yeah, up to a point.
Yeah.
Up to a point. You know, there comes a point where, and shit, we've seen this in the modern day, like on hoarders and stuff, where you live in a house that's just like filled with shit, like your shit, cat shit, rats, mice, roaches. You know, eventually that's gonna kill you.
There's some shit I want to say without triggering any kind of fucking AI algorithms. I don't know, but there's a certain amount of, there's a thing that they do to people where you take a weakened disease and insert it into your system, and your system learns from that, and it starts with a V, and with that you gain acquired immunity. Okay, that is a technology that does work. But also taking the same person and putting them in kind of a half-dirty environment in contact with these diseases, you can acquire immunity that way, in the same way. Instead of being bombarded with an intense amount of these viral particles, you only get some of them a little bit at a time, and your body can actually learn to kind of gain an immunity from that too. So the V, I'm gonna just call it the V theory, it does work, but there's also a natural thing that does work. They both work. It just depends on what disease it is and the situation. Now, does it you just sitting around, do you gain immunity? No. That you can't really trust that. With the V theory, you could probably trust that a little bit more, as long as it's the right disease and it's done right. In the past, preservatives and chemicals were added to that system, or things that weren't quite done right and it didn't work, or killed people when it shouldn't have. But each one is its own special case. They both can work. But I have noticed, growing up in the developing world, in Brazil, people that have no medical care, no history of medical care, living in favelas, which are shanty towns, amazing constitutions. Amazing. They could eat things that would just make you fucking puke, and they can eat it and live off of it.
Well, you have to think that most of the people that would have died from that have already died of that.
Yeah, so it's like a natural selection process. But they're a lot healthier than you think they are. I mean, there's something, I don't know, people say, you know, Brazilian genes. You know, growing up in Brazil, Brazilians are gifted to a certain extent. You know what I mean? Fucking, them girls got some fantastic booty. But they also had fucking very strong constitutions. When I was there was a plague, and it's probably still going on. There's a plague of fucking, I forgot what it's called. And it was making them fucking be risk takers. They were fucking crazy. Make them drive like motherfucking nuts. They fucking all thought they were race car drivers. They would take fucking sexual risks. It was just fucking, and they made them party real hard. And it was worms that got into their brain, microscopic little worms. And they would be attracted. It came from cat piss.
Oh, yeah.
They all had that. A lot of, not all of them, but at least half of them had it.
What's that fucking called? Myomax and something like that?
What was that shit called?
Because I thought they had it with like rabbits.
Toxoplasmosis.
There you go.
Toxoplasmosis.
I knew it was something like that.
When I was there, there was a plague of toxoplasmosis. And the wildest motherfuckers and the hottest girls all had that shit. They did. They'd put out in a heartbeat and they were wild, man. And fucking the acid test is whether or not you're repelled by the smell of cat piss. If you like the smell of cat piss, you got it. Yeah, that's toxoplasmosis. So good thing I passed that test. I don't like the smell of cat piss.
Yeah, that's most normal people don't.
Yeah, but no, if they like the smell of cat piss,
like
they fucking love it. But no, fucking a lot of shit that went down in Carnival and motherfuckers winning race car, badass race car drivers and Brazilian porn stars. Fucking
they all got brain worms.
Toxoplasmosis.
That was making it act like that.
Toxoplasmosis. It's not a fatal disease in most cases. I don't think they treat it, you know what I mean? But they make them fucking wild, man. Make it wild.
Well, yeah, you might die doing other shit.
Yeah, die from being a risk taker.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, obviously your odds go way up then.
Yeah, hypersexuality. They're super macho, super femmy, fucking sexually aggressive, fucking, they do everything fast, want to gamble, fucking winner take all, fucking betting everything on a single bet, you know, that's it. That's it.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
I was thinking too about when we were talking about one of the best books that I ever read that was like a nonfiction book. I think it was called The Speckled Monster, and it was about how the smallpox vaccine was discovered. Yeah. It's a fascinating story. It's a long book, but it was really good. I was just like riveted how that kind of worked out, how they figured out what caused it and shit. Because like I said, for a long time they didn't really get on board with that whole germ theory. It's like, well, we can't see germs, so it's like magic. Well, they didn't really believe in it, you know what I mean? So it took them a long time to get to that. And I think I've mentioned before there was another book called The Ghost Map, which was all about it wasn't dysentery, it was cholera. How they found out that like microorganisms in the water, like I said, don't drink shit water, which seems self-evident, but not so much in the 19th century. So how they figured that out too, and how the guy that came up with it's like, hey, don't drink shit water, and everybody's like, what, are you crazy? We like drinking shit water. You know, he's like, no, seriously, it's causing diseases and everybody's dying. But another thing too is that what people, and they might still do it nowadays, but I remember when I was a kid, because remember how everybody get chicken pox, right? Like every school year when you were a kid, everybody would get chicken pox. It would go around the fucking school. I had it, but very, very mild. I have a really... genetically, there's a lot of genetic things I don't like about myself, but I actually really do have a very, very good immune system. Yeah. So I never get, like, flus go around, colds go around, shit. I'll get it maybe, but like a very, very minor variant. Mm-hmm. And the same thing happened when I was a kid. Chickenpox went around. My brother got it so bad that his face swelled up and he still had scars from it, like a long time afterward. I got it and it was like half a day and I was kind of like, got 3 spots and I was kind of like, okay, whatever.
I look in the back and Victor Garcia jumps up. Toxoplasmosis.
Yeah.
He's got that fucking Latino name.
Well, he's a nurse. I think.
But all it down. Central and South Americans, know all about toxoplasmosis. I think some of that damn Latino fucking reputation kind of might come partially from the effects of fucking having a high rate of toxoplasmosis.
That would explain a lot.
Yeah.
Actually.
It's not deadly and for the most cases, and it's just make you fucking wild.
Yeah.
Brain worms. They're very microscopic, though. You know what I mean? They just fucking do something to you. You guys, it's documented. You can see.
Well, I mean that it happens to other animals too, like little like little worms. Like they'll get like a little ant brain and be like, "Hey, do what I want." You know what I mean?
It came from the favela.
That's pretty freaky. That's like a fucking Cronenberg movie right there.
Came from the favela. There were humans, cats, and rats all living in the same area, and there isn't really any sewage system going on there. It's all manual, carrying everything out in fucking buckets and containers and fucking throwing it in the river. And there's cross-contamination happening, and there's fleas and fucking rats and fucking mice and infected rats and cats, and they're all living in the same area, and fucking it can get into the human population. Which is something up in North America, they don't know anything about it. Yeah, hell yeah.
Although, like I said, I kind of feel like maybe with hoarders and stuff,
Yeah,
it could
hoarders
probably
can get it.
happen.
Yeah.
Well, because their houses are filled with like rats. A lot of them have like
Rats and
cats
mice.
living in there, and they just like
Yeah.
dogs and cats and stuff just like poop all over the place in
Yeah.
there. And also roaches.
I think John Lydon had it. Remember he said the fucking rats used to piss on him as a little kid and it caused his brain to swell up. Fucking, and after that he became a punk rocker. You remember that?
So that explains punk rock.
I think punk rock was the fucking Toxoplasmosis.
We all had rats piss on us when we were
Rats-
babies. I'm pretty sure a rat never pissed on me when I was a baby.
Well, no, he wasn't he wasn't a baby. He was a teenager. He says you couldn't do anything about it. In those council estates, they were filled with mice and rats. They'd be piddling all over your clothes and all over your bed sheets. There's nothing you can do about it, and you didn't know it. And fucking, he got a real bad fever, and his brain swelled up and shit.
I remember him saying something like that.
Yeah, and then after that, he said fuck it. You know what I mean? And then he went down that path, and that sounds something like toxoplasmosis, I think.
Yeah, that would.
He was a wild
explain
motherfucker too. John Lydon was the shit. Although that motherfucker now he's old. He spends all of his time talking about himself back in the 70s.
I kind of feel like that happens to a lot of old people.
Yeah.
They're like kind of trying to, and I hate it because I saw like when I was younger, and I used to see the old people when I was young and they were old, and they'd be like, back in my day, blah blah, blah. And I'm just like, holy crap, oh my god. And it's like nobody likes that. It's like it's like no one cares about what show you were like, but I try not to do that. I know I probably do at some points. Back in the day, blah blah blah. I don't know. I really try not to do that. But
He appeared in a time when it didn't take much to change shit.
That's true.
So yeah, he goes off about how important he was. He was kind of important for his time. He wasn't an important person really. He was just the right man in the right place at the right time.
Honestly,
and
I
did kind of change
think
things.
that if you're a really important person, then other people will say you're important.
Yeah, but he said
you come out saying I'm important. It's like everyone's like, man, shut up, you douche.
Yeah. What was it? Jimmy Savile was the guy. Was the name Jimmy Savile? He went on his show and fucking embarrassed him, and that's how.
That's that pedo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody asked us to do a show about him. Actually, a couple people asked us. Oh, I probably will at some point. Yeah, that's kind of because that's a really famous case in the UK.
Yeah, and wasn't that John Lydon and fucking Susie on his show and
I can't remember if it was that show.
Was it Jimmy Savile? I think it was.
Yeah, I can't remember.
And he called him an old fucker.
Yeah.
Remember that? You dirty old fucker. And he was a dirty old fucker.
Turned out.
Yeah. They called it. His kids saw right through that shit. Yeah. Remember he told Susie, he says, me and you, we'll meet afterwards. I always wanted to meet you. Oh, we'll meet afterwards. You dirty fucker. You dirty old fucker. Right on live television. Okay, fuck you kids. We fucking shut it off.
That would have been funnier if she said, I've always wanted to meet you so I could punch you right in the dick. After a pause. That
was a baby Susie.
That would have been
shit.
She was super cute. She's still super cute.
Yeah.
Honestly, I haven't seen her in a while, but like last time I saw her, she's got to be fucking old as shit now. But she's
60-something.
She still looks good though.
Yeah, she still looks good. Yeah.
I thought. Shit, man, I was in Burger King last night. We stopped at Burger King on the way to the movies, and they had Entertainment Tonight or whatever the fuck that show is, and Elvira was on there, Cassandra Peterson. Yeah. She was on there, and it's like that bitch is like 70-something years old,
she's still
and
cute.
she still looks fucking fantastic.
She paid for that though, and she worked for that.
Well, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's surgery.
Yes.
But
it's a work too, and drugs. Yeah, she's taking the right stuff.
Mega says, please don't do a show about Jimmy Savile.
I
I'm just saying, I don't remember who it was. It was a long time ago, but somebody asked.
Mango, no. From the American perspective, there were a lot of British personalities from the 70s and the 80s that are fascinating to us. Because we knew about them, but we didn't grow up with them. They weren't in our media. We only heard about them through rock stars that we liked.
Because I was like into new wave and post punk and stuff, I was a total like Anglophile. Like I used to love like all the British TV from back in the day.
Right.
I was like I said, I was even married to a British person for like 15 years.
Yeah.
So it's like and I lived over there for a little while. So it's like I knew a lot more, I guess, about British culture than the average American would.
We knew about your culture, but we didn't have an intimate knowledge of it. We didn't grow up in it. It was an alien culture.
Yeah, it's always different because you're just like seeing it through the prism of their media.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, somebody growing up in a place that's never going to be the same as
then
when you're seeing it from afar.
Same thing, Europeans, you know what I mean? Again, they see what happens in America. They know what happened, but they don't quite see it the same way we did because they're not living in the same environment. So the context is different.
And the thing about America, too, is that it's such a huge country
It's
that...
diverse. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like if something happened in like one city somewhere, it's like that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the same attitude that people would have about it in other places.
The difference between California and Florida is the difference between France and Germany, or France and England. It just happens to be that we speak the same language.
And to be honest, it's like not even that. It's kind of like in some states, it's like county to county.
County to county, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's so you can't just say, oh, California does this or New York does this, because it's like there's lots of different.
There's going to be some counties here in Florida that resemble counties in fucking California. There's going to be weird shit like that.
That's what I mean. It's a massive, massive place, and it's just kind of like it shit's all over the fucking map.
Yeah, just people that do not grow up in the United States. A lot of foreigners. Also depends on the generation you're talking about. See the United States as a single united country. Americans in general don't really see it that way. We see it more like the way you would see the EU.
I mean, we kind of do,
but not really. It's more like
really.
It's more like an imperium. Each state is its own country, kind of like in the EU, but there's a centralized government that nobody really agrees with, or you know what I mean.
And like I said, you know, I've lived in different... It's almost kind of like... Because I live in Florida, there's some counties here that are better than other counties.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of the same everywhere. So it's very, very localized. I kind of feel
Which
like...
that's good, because you can vote with your feet. If you're in a bad county, you can get the fuck out of there.
Joe Nash said it was the Bill Grundy show. Yeah, I was pretty sure it wasn't the Jimmy Savile thing.
Yeah, Bill Grundy.
Because that was a whole other issue.
Bill Grundy, he seemed to me to be kind of like the Merv Griffin of England.
Merv Griffin was the elevator killer.
Yeah. Merv Griffin was actually cool, though.
He was, actually.
Merv was actually cool, yeah.
That's why I was so excited when I saw him like in The Man with Two Brains. I'm like that he actually like played a serial killer, and he's like, I've just always liked killing. I just really, really enjoyed it. Yeah. And I was like, oh my god, that dude's awesome. So yeah, that made me happy. But yeah, I kind of feel like, well, it was pretty easy. I guess it was pretty easy in the U.S. too, but it was like pretty easy to like piss off the squares back then.
Yeah.
So you just like go on a show and say fucker, and everyone's like, in the UK or in the US at that time period, everyone's gonna like have a fucking shit fit about it.
Which is funny because
it's hilarious nowadays.
It's hilarious because
it's nothing.
Looking back at the 70s, because the 70s was a fucking time of fucking swingers motels and all kinds of weird
key
shit.
Parties.
There were parts of the United States during the 70s was like something out of fucking Logan's Run. Other parts of it was like something out of a cowboy movie. It just didn't make any goddamn
Well, and honestly,
sense.
we recorded a review today of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which came out in 1975, and it's like, look at the shit that was going on in that movie in the 70s. But then, like, on the other side of it, you know, as wild as that movie was, you had like these really super uptight.
Yeah.
Honestly, I kind of feel like the 70s was kind of more freewheeling. Like the 80s kind of went more uptight.
80s started to become
the 80s got like super uptight.
Right.
I mean, I kind of remember that transition.
It started to become very corporate.
I mean, you know, I was a kid, but I remember that happening.
It had to do with money and yuppies.
Yeah.
People started to make a lot of money, so they tried to fucking be, like, respectable, I think. Very middle class. And returning back to kind of like a traditional kind of, in a way, upstandingness. In general. But that was like the gestalt. Were people doing that? No.
See, that's the thing. It's like, it's always kind of like shit. And like, that's something else I was going to say, because Victor said, were key parties real? See, I don't really know.
I think in the 70s they were between certain people. In the 60s.
Yeah, but I think it was like pretty small.
Yeah, it was subculture.
I think it was kind of like a thing.
It was the fetish parties.
Yeah, it was kind of a thing where now, you know, are fetish parties real? Yeah. Is it like a mass market?
No.
No. It's a very, very small.
We can name them. We can tell you who it is.
Yeah.
And fucking where all that shit is, we know them. They're all married couples, and they're like lawyers.
Yeah.
And lawyers that marry.
Yeah, like we know that's going on, but it's not mainstream.
No.
It's not something. It's a pretty small like subculture. Yeah. And I think probably the same thing. And I think key parties are just known nowadays because
in hindsight, because of this shit.
Yeah, because it's like a few people were doing it
and it got around.
And it was like, ooh, that's so naughty. Yeah. So like we're talking about that, like look how fucking wild the 70s were.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel most people are just doing normal shit. Like I kind of feel like most people are doing normal shit all the time. It's just that there's these outliers that are doing some crazy shit. Somebody hears about it and reports on it, and then suddenly your whole decade gets associated with this one, this thing that maybe 1% of the population were doing. You know,
the fetish scene right now in our area is dominated by thruples. We call them thruples. That's couples of 3. It's usually one guy and 2 girls usually. Sometimes I think it might be. Yeah, well, it might be. I don't think there's any 2 guys and 1 girl thing.
I don't know any. I mean, I'm sure there are some, but I don't know any personally.
There are male and female couples that are in open relationships that we know.
Yeah, I know a lot of those.
Yeah, where the dude is like, yeah, she's out having fun with him. It's all right. You know what I mean? Fucking this and that and it. But they're just kind of doing whatever. What's funny is that they tend to be popular. Everybody knows who they are. They don't tend to be, like, real good looking. Not all of them. Some of them are. But, like, one of them is a couple. It's a lawyer with her husband. Her husband was an ex-defendant and an ex-con that she represented at one time. And he's pretty cool, too. And then their girlfriend. And they go out and dance and fucking party. They're wild. They are funny. They're nice people. They're
very nice. I've known them forever.
Yeah, and they got teenage girls that live with them. They're daughters. Or is it just one daughter?
They have a daughter.
They have a daughter, and it's her friend.
Well, no, she's not a teenager. She's probably 20.
She's 20 now, but I remember when she was a teenager, and it was so funny because the daughter knew what was going on, and she just thought it was ridiculous.
She thought it was like, well, it's her parents.
Her parents. She's like, oh, this fucker.
It's always, whatever your parents are doing, even if, like, from our point of view, it's, like, cool or whatever. It's like, if that's your parents, you'd be like, lame.
Yeah, I thought shit was lame. I was over there cooking pizza.
So embarrassing.
We had a party over there at their place. I was cooking pizza and shit, and everybody was over. And it was that couple with their girlfriend, and she was living in a room up there with them. And it just... It might sound weird if you didn't know them. When you know them, it's like, well, of course. And it's not weird, really, when you know them.
It's not weird. They're not weird.
No, they're funny.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I love those
funny.
two. I love
They're
those two.
funny.
Actually, we just saw them.
Yeah, we just saw them.
Last time we went out to Mannequins. They go out all the time.
It doesn't. It seems weird if you were just like put it on people you don't really know, but when you know them, you're like, oh well, yeah, of course.
Well, it's just like everything else. It's like if it's something you don't like know about or experience yourself, it seems weird. But then, like when you know people do, it's totally not weird.
Yeah,
everyone's just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah,
and like I said, we've known them forever. We've been to their house. They had a birthday party for me a couple years ago. It's like, you know. Yeah,
and the girlfriend was a girl that we knew and dated some of our friends, and she was cute too. And the girlfriend would be yelling at the daughter, "You better!" I saw that shit, and she's like, "I'll fuck you." The girlfriend's trying to fucking discipline the daughter about doing shit in the house, trying to keep her ass in line. So imagine that. Not only to do with
like
your parents,
I said,
you
whenever
have to do with your parents' girlfriend,
right?
Who's
and
like only a couple years older than you.
It wasn't weird. It wasn't weird to her because she'd grown up in that house. So it's like it's not weird to her. But like I said, when you're a teenager, everything your parents do is embarrassing.
Yeah.
Everything.
The girlfriend was probably about 6 to 8 years older than her, which has probably pissed her off. Yeah, fuck, I ain't doing that shit.
Right.
Oh, you better fucking clean that shit up. You crazy.
Well, and the thing is, like, we know another couple too who, you know, they're not like, you know, they're not swingers or whatever you want to call it, but they're, you know, they've been in the goth scene a long time, and they have a couple daughters that are older, that are like teenagers and ones in their 20s. Yeah. And for a while the daughter was mid-teens, the daughter was kind of like rebelling. She's like, man, she's gonna get into like hip hop and stuff like because this goth thing, you guys, oh my god, yeah, Mom, you're too old to be looking like that. And it was just like this whole thing, and she was like lashing out and like getting in all kind of trouble and stuff. She's grown out of it now.
Yeah, here's the funny thing: the mom is like a beautiful goth woman who is a singer for a band, background singer. The daughter looks like a young. Now we remember last time I saw her, she was a little kid. Now she's old enough to go to the club, and she looks like...
She will be in a couple months, yeah.
She looks like a fucking super hot little TikToker fucking type chick. It's just funny. They grow up fast. But, yeah. It's weird.
Well, now, like I said, the daughter, it's... For a time, she was just like, you guys are so lame. It's like, you guys are so old, and why are you dressing like that?
Now she's a goth chick.
And now, she got over it, though.
She got over it,
Because, I mean, you know...
Goth reproduction. Reproduction.
Mom used to tell me, she's like, man, she makes fun of me all the time. She's like, and, you know, her mom is like, she's younger, a little bit younger than me.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's like in her early to mid-40s. And she's still, I mean, she looks really young and she's really beautiful and she has like the whole goth look and everything.
Long black hair.
Yeah, and she's kind of like, you know, my daughter told me that I was too old to be looking like this. And it's like, why do you leave the house looking like this? It's so embarrassing and all this other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, it was this whole thing. But like, she's grown out of it now. Because like I said, anything your parents do is lame when you're a teenager. That's just the way it goes. I think it's been like that since time immemorial. Even if your parents are cool by everyone else's standards, to your teenage kid, you can never be cool. You can never be cool.
That's who we're talking about in the red corset.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not going to show the daughter, though.
Well, yeah, that would be weird.
Yeah.
That would be weird. But yeah, they have a couple of kids.
Yeah.
Well, she has a couple of kids. There's one with her and her husband and one she had from a previous relationship. But yeah, the daughter got over it, though. She was kind of a troublemaker in her teenage years, but, you know. What are you gonna do? Yeah, so they were talking about like fucking
We got Cash App, right? You got a Cash App?
Yes.
We're gonna send some money to Keith later on.
Okay.
For some stuff.
Ilsa says, "Who's the girl on the right?" That's Laura.
That was Laura. She's another friend of ours.
Yeah, that's Laura.
Yeah.
She me and that's Jen, I guess we can say.
Yeah, Laura and Jen. Yeah.
She's in 13th Angel.
Yeah.
So me and Jen and Laura are in like a bunch of photos.
Bunch of photos and shit that they've done.
Yeah. And we go and hang out every now and then. Although I haven't seen Laura in a while. She doesn't come out.
She says she's coming out.
Oh, okay. I know, but she always says that.
Yeah.
I saw her like a while back. Me and her and Jen went down to downtown Sanford and hung out. DJ Maniac says, telling Ilsa, come to Red Party next month. The Starry Night is playing and you'll get to meet me.
Who said that?
DJ Maniac.
Okay, yeah.
That's New York City, right?
New York, they're coming.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, a Starry Night's going to be up there. All right, so where was I? Can I get back to the shit?
Get back to the show.
All right, well, we're done.
We got a good amount of people in there following right now. We're good.
Okay, that's good. Well, we're done with the vampire shit mostly. Okay. I mean, like I said, that was kind of a thing. There was like a little mini boomlet in New England in the late 19th century because of tuberculosis, probably. For whatever reason, at least 18 people thought their family members were vampires and dug them up and burned their hearts and did shit like that because they thought that would solve the problem. And Mercy Brown was the last one that happened to. So, like I said, you can still see her grave. It's in Exeter, Rhode Island, if you want to visit it. So, you know. All right, so let's talk about the Cleary changeling case, which I had actually never heard of until I saw it on this show. I don't even remember what the show was called, but it was one of those kind of like weird world, paranormal, whatever. It was either on Tubi or Amazon or Netflix or whatever. And I was watching it as like a documentary, and they would do like reenactments of it. And I was like, oh my God, this is like a fascinating case. I'm going to have to like do that on the show because that's really interesting. So this is like a murder case, but there's also kind of like a weird like paranormal element to it. So this happened in 1895 in Ireland. So there's this woman named Bridget Cleary, and she was married to this dude named Michael, and he was a cooper. I had to look up what that was. Do you know what that is?
A cooper's a job, but I forgot what it is.
Well, I know it's a job.
Something with taking care of pigeons or some bullshit like that. Or
no, you're way,
you're with stones or
nope.
I don't know. Okay.
Way off. Well, that's what I mean. That's why I was like, I gotta Google that shit because I'm not actually sure what that is. It's somebody that makes wooden barrels, like wooden stuff out of timber staves.
Yeah, and they had to wrap it with the bands.
Yeah.
That's right. That's because that was a huge industry back in the day.
Ilsa knew barrel makers.
Yeah, they had to make a barrel.
See, I didn't know. I had to look it up.
Huge industry.
Yeah.
That would be like the equivalent of today making refrigerators, because that's what you were storing fluids and foods and shit.
Yeah, everybody needed barrels.
Yeah, it was a food storage.
Somebody had to make that shit.
Yeah. And
that's what her husband did. So like I said, this is 1895. Now, so he worked as a cooper, and from all accounts, at least prior to whatever happened, they were supposedly very happy, and they were also quite prosperous. Now, they didn't have any kids, but they lived in a cottage near Tipperary, with Bridget's dad. Now, Michael was quite a bit older than Bridget, 9 years, which I guess that's not that huge of a deal. So he kind of made some good money, And actually, she made quite a bit of good money, too. She kept chickens, so she sold eggs. And she was also a seamstress, and I believe she also worked as a milliner. Like, she made hats and stuff. So she actually, like, made a pretty good living, too, which, not unusual, but would have been kind of unusual for a woman to be making almost as much as her husband at that time, I guess. Because that was something that got brought up a lot later on. So they were kind of like not wealthy, but a little bit richer than their neighbors were because she was making a bunch of extra money on the side. She was also literate, which a lot of women weren't at the time, and dressed real fashionable, which was something that a lot of people commented on because, you know, even though she was working class, you know, people, commented on it, I guess. So at this point, so this is Ireland. Now, at this time period in Ireland, maybe nowadays, I don't think so. But back then, I kind of feel like there was a very widespread belief in fairies. Not like your good, like, Tinkerbell kind of fairies, but, you know, like little people type fairies who are not necessarily evil, but not necessarily good either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Irish people will probably like attest that
Like some shit. It was like some shit out of fucking Dungeons and Dragons or out of like The Hobbit. They're talking about other races of humanity, like subhumans and demi-humans and weird shit. You know, fucking leprechaun, and fucking fairies, and
yeah, kind of like leprechauns, which I kind of feel like in the U.S. we kind of have a thing. Well, like we know what leprechauns are, but I kind of feel like nowadays we have like Lucky Charms and all that kind of shit. So it's kind of been filtered down
into something cheap,
into something that oh yay happy leprechauns with their pots of gold and shit like that. But I guess like in the home country in Ireland, because you know, like obviously U.S. has a huge like Irish influence because there was a lot of Irish immigration back in the day, but leprechauns and fairies and shit like that were not really anything to be fucked around with.
No.
Like I said, they weren't evil, but you didn't want to get on the wrong side of them.
They had magical abilities they'd fuck you up. This goes back, you know, to like the Nibelung and German stuff, you know what I mean? Fucking dwarves that can make magical rings. Tolkien came from all this. Tolkien was inspired by all this lore, and he would write all these stories, and from that came Dungeons and Dragons and all this shit in the modern era, you know, fucking Game of Thrones and all that, you know, fucking that's where they'd come from. But what was weird is that they actually believed in this shit to a certain extent. There were people trying to photograph them. There were also, in one of those Mysteries of the Unexplained books that I had, they actually had segments that were lifted out of magazine or newspapers from the 1800s that claimed archaeologists were digging or workmen were digging and they broke into a miniature tunnel that was like everything was 1/4 the proportions of normal human beings. Little bitty doors, little stairwells, rooms, little furniture, and they followed them as far as they could, you know, but then like, you know, the trail went cold and they never did find anything, that kind of shit. And I was like, at the time I'm reading this and I'm going, what the fuck are they talking about? And
they found a leprechaun's house.
It's out of context, you know what I mean? I didn't have the cultural context at the time. I was reading this in the 90s. This is what they're talking about. They're talking about fairies.
Yeah.
Okay. Fairies and leprechauns are little elves and shit. And these reports of breaking into these fucking underground caverns with little bitty tunnels and shit. And the stories are given like they're straight, like it's real news. It was fake news though. It was up there with like the airship stories.
Yeah.
And shit.
I think people don't realize that people hundreds of years ago also liked trolling.
They trolled the shit out of people.
And would publish stories in newspapers that were absolutely bullshit.
Absolutely bullshit.
But were written as though they were real.
Yeah. Another one was shit like people found coal or stone and they were breaking it apart and a frog jumped out of the stone.
Yeah, we did a show about that.
And in the middle of the stone was a place where the frog could fucking hide. And when they put the frog back on the stone, it went right back into there and it preferred to be in the stone. And all of its orifices would seal up like it had a mouth, but it had sealed up. It had a butthole, but it had sealed up. It was totally And you're and
I have a butthole. But it's sealed up.
So I'm reading this in my early 20s, going fucking there's some weird shit in this world, man. Fucking these motherfuckers don't know what I'm talking about. Back in the day, they were finding weird shit, and they'd have a whole bunch of these stories in a whole section of this book that I read called Mysteries the Unexplained.
Yeah, I had a book like that.
People were throwing coal into the fire and frogs jumping out, and they would
Hey, that's my house,
and then,
motherfucker.
and they would fucking look, and they'd see a piece of coal, and the frog had jumped out of the center of the coal. It was perfect. And it doesn't make sense to a modern person. You're like, why the fuck? They can't be making that up because that doesn't mean anything. Yeah, it meant something to them.
It meant something to
It
them,
meant something to them.
The cultural context.
The cultural
has been
context
lost.
is
That's
lost.
all.
It was called Fortean archaeology.
Yeah,
Those-
Charles Fort. We did a whole
Yeah.
show about Fortean archaeology.
Fortean archaeology. The reason why they were coming up with this weird shit, anachronisms, living frogs inside
It was kind of a
ancient rock.
creationist
It was about creationism.
thing, yeah.
They were trying to use these stories to fortify their belief in the Bible
Yep.
that the Earth is not that old.
Yep.
That's. But you see, that would be totally lost on a person in 2020.
I mean, there's still creationists around nowadays,
Yeah.
but it's a very, very fringe belief.
That would still be lost on a
Yeah,
a
so
person.
mainstream belief, they'd be like, what the fuck are
they
you even talking about? Yeah.
They're
Why
like,
would somebody make that up?
Why would they make that up? That must have
Right.
happened. No, it didn't happen. They're trying to say that the Earth was it's creationism.
Yeah. The Earth's only 6,000
It's only 6,000 years old, and the rocks that you are saying are thousands of years old are not thousands of years old. They're
Right.
a couple hundred years old. That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying.
It's just really funny that it's
Yeah.
like such a long ago. But
Yeah.
like I said, it just goes to show that it doesn't take long for the whole cultural context of something to be lost.
Right.
Like I said, that was the whole thing about when we were watching that industrial short last night, and the whole thing about the dude eating tomatoes like an apple, like from a fruit basket. And I'm like, is there something I'm missing out of this
There
whole?
was.
Like, who the fuck does that? Nobody. I was like, and why are they harping on it? It's so weird.
Because they kept saying a fucking tomato, and a tomato goes is a
And you
hot-
were saying maybe it's like because
It's a hot
tomato is
young
like a
girl.
slang from like a hot girl. I was like,
hot
yeah, I
young
know
girl.
that, but it's like
hot
that's a
young girl.
long way to go around.
They kept showing his daughter was, she was what you would call today a pog, a fat ass white girl. Okay, she wore the little pedal pushers, and a fucking pointed bra, and a booty. Back in the 50s, she'd have been a pog. She was a tomato. They kept showing the tomato and her and the tomato, and they were making tomato jokes because they're trying to get these workers to watch this
To pay attention
to pay
to this
attention to this
fucking-
fucking safety movie.
Look, don't get your face gnawed off.
Yeah, by the machines.
By the machines.
So they keep showing this fat
Boobs.
ass, this
Pay attention.
16-year-old, 17-year-old fat ass white girl is running around in
She
her
wasn't
pedal.
fat.
Well, it's fat with a P, P-H-A-T.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, pog.
You gotta
Fat ass
clarify.
white.
You gotta
I
clarify.
mean, thick. She was
Okay.
thick.
We should have said that.
She was
Thick,
thick.
thick
Fat
with two
ass-
C's.
No.
Thick with two C's.
Okay. Okay. Thick with two C's.
Yeah.
T-H-I-C-C.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah. Although she wouldn't be thick by today's standards, she was.
That's
thick,
what I mean.
She was
She's
thick
not-
for the. She was thick for
the 50s?
For the 50s.
Another thing we were commenting on too was that the dude that got his fingers gnawed off by the machine and his wife, how old were they supposed to be? Because they looked,
40s.
god damn.
40s.
The
'Cause
wife
you got married-
particularly, she looked like she was about 75
You got married in your late teens.
by today's standards.
You got married in your late teens. So they were in their late 30s or early 40s because the girl was maybe 16, 17.
Ooh, rode hard and put up wet back
Yeah.
then, gotta say.
Well, their lifestyle was different. And they
'Cause-
drank a lot and they ate like shit and they didn't get much sleep and they worked very hard. In the 50s, mainstream America was kind of in the place. It was a developing nation back then, kind of in the place where like middle class China is right now.
And all the
Working them to death.
all the dudes were so dumpy.
Dumpy, low T, high fat motherfuckers eating a lot of shit. They fucking drank a
Their
lot of
faces
beer.
were big and like
Yeah.
they all like their mouths were kind of hanging open.
Well, when you looked at the diet at the time, and I remember seeing what they called the food pyramid.
Yeah, I
in
remember
the
that.
70s, and the food pyramid of the 50s was even worse. It was almost like 80% carbohydrates.
And then the
80%.
rest of it was suet.
The rest of it is like fat with a little bit of fucking protein on the top of that shit. So it was mostly bread, beer, potatoes,
Yeah, just mostly eat that, and then like some lard on top.
Yeah, some lard, cheese, milk, pork, and
Spam
some beef.
and some sardines.
Yeah, and some chicken, some eggs.
Some Vienna
The chicken and the
sausages.
eggs are probably the best things they were eating, though.
I'm sure it probably was. I mean, that
But
seems the most nutritious.
I remember how many carbs were in the food pyramid of the 70s. That's what they were teaching us. And it's
Yeah, I
like, man,
remember
that was
that.
like fucking twice the amount of carbs you really should be eating. Cereals and breads. There was lots of it.
Yeah, it's
And the
like
reason why they were
mostly-
telling you to do this is because agribusiness was making that. So they wanted you to eat what they had.
Yeah.
It wasn't really...
Oh, we got lots of this.
We got
You
lots
guys
of
just,
this, eat a lot of
eat,
that.
Eat a shit ton
Yeah.
of that, yeah.
General Mills. Brought to you by General Mills. Eat that shit. Eat some
like I
fucking
said,
Cheerios.
I kind of feel like a lot of this is why I find food history fascinating, because a lot of food or nutrition rules that you learned like when you were growing up, most of it came from like companies that were just trying to sell some shit.
Right.
And this is going way back to the fucking
Don't
20s
eat
and
that
shit.
butter. That's bad for you. Eat the margarine. No. The margarine was much worse for you than the butter.
Yeah, well.
Remember that shit?
Yep.
Fucking drink this milk. Drink all this milk. We got milk. Drink it up. Lactic acid is not that good for you. Butter and cheese are better for you than milk. It's just... Milk provided certain things that the old diet didn't have. It was high in calcium and it had a certain amount of fat into it. But really, that almond milk would be better for you than fucking cow milk today. Because you can get calcium and protein from other sources that are lower in
Honestly, we don't even
carbohydrates.
buy regular milk anymore, do we? We just
No,
buy
I use that- I use
we
that-
use
I use-
almond milk
I use
or
powdered
dried or powdered milk.
Yeah, and I just use it for recipes.
recipes.
And stuff. Yeah,
And for other shit, we just use almond milk.
yeah, it's better for you.
It is. And honestly, I don't actually mind almond milk at all.
It's okay. It's lower in calorie.
When I was
Lot
a
higher
kid,
protein.
I used to really like whole milk, but that's super fattening.
Well, it's not higher in protein. It's lower in calories,
Yeah.
and we're getting protein from other sources that we eat. Whey protein's a lot better for you. Funny thing is that nacho cheese is whey protein. That's pretty damn good for you. You would think that would be really bad for you. Yeah, no, not really. It's pretty high in protein. The calories are pretty low on that.
That shit
nacho
tastes.
cheese.
It tastes weird to me though.
It does taste weird.
I
It
don't-
tastes
I don't
fake
like
as
it.
shit because
Yeah.
it kind of is.
I don't like it.
And then you can flavor it like chocolate and call it pudding. Most of that damn fucking chocolate pudding out of this big old cans is just fucking whey protein.
Sorry, I just had a flashback to that Walking Dead episode where
Yeah.
Carl ate that whole big thing of like chocolate.
Yeah, that wouldn't be that bad for you. It got a lot of protein in it.
It's not as bad for you as the. Honestly, some of the like worst shit, because I know people pick on shit like what am I thinking of? Like Twinkies.
Yeah.
I saw one of those shows about like how it's made or whatever, and they
Yeah.
showed they made Twinkies. I'm like, oh my god, there's actually real ingredients in that.
Yeah,
I
there's a lot of
wouldn't have
whipped
thought.
lard in it. I thought.
I don't think they use lard in a lot of
Yeah,
stuff
listen,
anymore.
okay.
They used to use lard in the middle of Oreos when they were good.
Yeah,
But
when they
they
were good.
don't really use a lot of lard anymore.
Yeah, there's a misconception that
And that
lard's
stuff.
real bad for you, and lard wasn't.
In
real
small
bad for you.
quantities, it's
No,
not going to hurt
it's
you.
pretty good.
It's not going to hurt you.
It's a beef product,
Yeah.
and it's digestible, and it was a pretty good source of fat, and the taste was really good.
Yeah,
Really
lard's,
good.
lard's delicious.
Sweeten that lard and put it between them damn Oreo cookies, and you felt like you ate some shit after that. You're like, ooh, it'd be a lot better than fucking corn syrup. A lot
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, Victor says Oreos are vegan nowadays, so yeah, they don't use
fucking
lard nowadays.
Terrible.
Marco says eggs are probably better than their reputation too.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, I
Yeah.
think eggs are one of the best, especially if you're like a vegetarian, not vegan obviously. But if you're a vegetarian and you want like a good source of protein
Yeah.
that's not super high calorie, like eggs are actually really nutritious.
Yeah, when I wake up in the morning, I know I'm gonna fucking do some lifting. I'll go have an omelet, and that omelet will be made out of at least 6, if not 8 eggs. Because we buy eggs by the case.
Man, I love eggs.
Yeah, and fucking it's a very high in protein. It's fucking low in calorie.
Yeah,
pretty good
one
amount-
hard-boiled egg is
it's
only
good.
like 70 or 80 calories.
Yeah. It's like eating meat. You know what I mean? It's a similar, might be even easier to digest than meat. But it's very nutritious. It'll build a lot of fucking muscle.
And they're very filling too, which is nice.
Yeah, they taste good. And they make good meals. I love omelets and hard-boiled eggs. I can sit around and just eat fucking all hard-boiled eggs all day.
I mean, I eat 2 hard-boiled eggs and I'm full.
Yeah.
So it's like, which is good because then you don't get hungry like later, and that's like
I like 6 to 8 of them.
I can't eat that many.
That's a meal to me.
I can't eat that many.
Yeah.
I can eat an omelet with like 3 of them and some veggies, and that's enough. Hard-boiled eggs, for some reason, are like more, I guess I don't know if they're more concentrated or something. I eat 2 hard-boiled eggs, and I'm like, all right, I can't eat any more than that. It just seems like it just fills me up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, so where were we? Where was I? Okay, so we were talking about, how did we get off talking about food again?
I don't know. It happens.
We were talking about fairies.
We were talking about the 50s and pogs. Fat-ass white girls or thick girls. Yeah.
Yeah, but then how did that happen? Now I'm trying to like go back.
We were talking about the fucking the safety. We were talking about the safety film.
Yeah, I know that, but it's like then wait.
Yeah. And then you said all those the men were all fucking real. They almost kind of looked real chubby, short and stuff.
Well, and they all looked like way older than
much
they were
older.
too.
And it was because of the diet. It was a very hard.
And especially that one woman that was that was supposed to be his wife, and I'm like, that honestly looks like his mom.
Yeah. It's a very high in carbohydrate diet, and they drank a lot of beer.
I guess.
And they didn't live long. They just didn't. My granddad was dead by 50 of a heart attack. And it's because they ate like that. They grew up drinking pork grease.
Yeah,
They put it in baby bottles.
All of his arteries were just like solid pork grease.
Which that might fuck some people up. What are you talking about? Yeah. Southern mothers, back in the very early 1900s, would put fucking bacon drippings into a baby's bottle to make them healthy.
Gotta fatten those kids up.
Fatten them kids up.
God damn it.
So they were born with fucking clogged arteries. And they just drank pork grease. They'd fucking have a bunch of pork grease and pork drippings and shit, and it'd be all... They're delicious. First of all, they're delicious.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Because I eat like that too sometimes. And they'd be fucking swapping that shit up in fucking cornbread with fucking greens, and fucking turnip greens and shit, and eating it off of cornbread. And fucking putting fucking bacon drippings and fucking crumbled up bacon and cheese on top of grits. Ooh. It's delicious, but you can't eat like that 24/7, 7 days a week like they did. That would kill you.
Maybe once a week you'd be all right.
Yeah.
For like a treat. But
They weren't even giving it a rest to clear it out of their system.
yeah, it's like, ooh, every morning I'm gonna get up and like I'm gonna drink a big bowl of pork grease on top of like all these like fried potatoes and all that
They
kind of
drink
stuff.
the pork drippings from fucking 4 slices of bacon every day easily.
Like I said, I'm amazed that
They didn't
people
waste
lived
any
as long as they
damn
did.
bacon. They didn't waste
Eating
bacon
like
grease.
that. And honestly, I eat like that one time and I just want to throw up. It's just like, it's too much.
They'd cook a bunch of bacon at once and then save the grease and put it in a fucking drippings fucking pot with a lid on it right next to the stove. So if you needed any oil, they just fucking grab some fucking bacon drips and put that in a cast iron skillet and start cooking something with that, and they use bacon drippings. It was just terrible, terrible, terrible for your fucking cardiovascular system. My dad's had many bypasses, heart bypasses. He's basically just a dude sitting around waiting to die right now, and that's because of fucking pork grease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, you can get away with it every now and then.
Yeah, but you can't just grow up from fucking cradle to grave doing that.
No way. No way. Ilsa said, my nutrition teacher said eggs are kind of the perfect food. Yeah, I kind of agree.
Yeah.
They sort of are.
Protein to carbohydrate to fat ratio is about perfect. Lots and lots of bodybuilders just fucking eat them down. Just love fucking eggs. And chicken and broccoli. Chicken breast and all chicken on the bone. They're going, well, chicken breast. Fuck that. The leg too, the thigh. There's not a big difference.
Yeah, because I like
nutritionally. Get all the shit. Chicken, broccoli, eggs. Fucking anything made out of whey protein. Whey protein drink. Fucking the whey-based cheese and fake nacho cheese is pretty good. You want a high-protein diet, low carbohydrate. You want carbs, but you just want them low. And don't worry about fat. Just make sure it's just not bacon fat. That's the worst.
Yeah, just like don't overdo it. That's all.
Tallow, which is from beef, is nowhere near as bad. Vegetables, not as bad, but you want to keep it kind of low. The Indians overdo it with curries and shit with a lot of fucking vegetable oils in it. You know what I mean? That can catch up with you cholesterol-wise. You have to give your body time to get rid of that stuff. You can't eat it all the time.
David June says my dad still has a bacon grease container.
Yeah.
I mean, we do too, but we only use it every now and then.
Every now and then.
We have like a jar.
It's so delicious. Anything cooked in bacon grease is fucking delicious.
Yeah. But like I said, we only use it every now and then.
Yeah.
All right, so where was I? We were talking about fairies, right? Oh, and Ilsa also said eggs don't have as much cholesterol as people think.
No.
Yeah, they don't.
They're
They're actually like quite good for you. Like I said, they're
You
very,
can live off them.
Yeah, they're very low calorie and they're very
Yeah.
high protein.
Yeah.
So yeah, very very nutritious.
Yeah.
So all right, so we're talking about Ireland. Everybody believed in fairies. Like I said, you're not talking about like friendly Tinkerbell fairies. We're talking about very not evil, but just capricious, let's call it that, where it's kind of like if you were nice to them, then they would like do you a solid every now and then, but don't piss them off or they'll like really really fuck your shit up. So what a lot of people would do at the time, just to be on the safe side again, was they would leave like little plates out for them, like on the table, be like, hey fairies, that one's for you or whatever. And they would just, every time somebody said something about the fairies, like somebody would be like, oh, well, bless the fairies or whatever. So they wouldn't get mad, So it was that kind of situation. But fairies also kind of got blamed whenever something bad happened. You know what I mean? We had a bad crop this year, fucking fairies, they must be mad at us or whatever. So into this, Bridget Cleary, at least according to all the accounts at the time, she was kind of like really into fairy lore. Because like I said, I guess this is like the late 19th century. So I guess she did genuinely believe in them. So she was like really interested in them. So what she would kind of do, at least according to, all the accounts, she would kind of go hang out at places where fairies were supposed to congregate, live, whatever it was that fairies do. Because, they had like fairy circles or whatever, fairy forts, where they would kind of, and she would go hang out there. So in spring of 1895, early March it was, she goes off on an errand. Like I said, she kept chickens and she sold eggs. So she went off to deliver a bunch of eggs to her dad's cousin, whose name was Jack Dunn. And this area where she was going to, there was a, like a fairy fort, which is kind of like, from back in the day where the medieval, circular fortified settlements were, and the Irish called them fairy forts. And you were supposed to kind of avoid them because that was sort of like the area where the fairies lived, or it was sacred to them or whatever. And if you fucked with it, they'd get mad at you and all kind of bad things would ensue. But apparently she was really into it and she would kind of hang out in these areas, at least according to accounts. I don't know how accurate this stuff is. So she supposedly went to this fort either before or after she was dropping off the eggs to the relative. So apparently it's still early March, so it's still pretty cold out. So what ended up happening, so Bridget goes out to deliver the eggs, may or may not have stopped at the fairy fort on the way home. But because it was really cold, she gets home and she seems to have come down with some sort of ailment from the cold weather or what have you. She couldn't really seem to get warm. She had a really bad headache. She was like shivering and stuff. So the next day, she really couldn't get out of bed. She didn't really feel all that well. So the following day, which I believe was a Saturday, her dad actually ends up going to the next a 4-mile walk, and he was going to go get the doctor because he thought something was the matter with her. So the doctor, I guess, though, was busy and was kind of like, well, I can't come until Wednesday. Like I said, this is Saturday. So he's like, yeah, I can't come out there. And so in the interim, her husband, Michael, had also walked over there and been like, hey, doc, can you please come over here and look at her? She doesn't really look all that good. She's really sick. And the doctor's like, I'm busy. I can't do it right now. So the husband had been over there a couple of times too, but the doctor still hadn't come. Now, finally, the doctor gets there and kind of looks at her. And he tells them, apparently, nervous excitement. Which that's not even, what is it? What even
That's
is
nothing.
That?
It's a made up thing.
It sounds like woman disease.
Yeah.
It's woman disease is what it is.
That's what they're talking about.
And slight bronchitis came up with that too, from being out in the cold. But it's like, well, it's no big deal, but the doctor said, so even though he said it's not a big deal, but for whatever reason, her husband, right around this time, she'd been sick for a few days. And like I said, it probably wasn't anything really bad. She'd been out in the cold. Maybe she had, the flu or pneumonia or whatever. I don't know what it was. But her husband, for whatever reason, became convinced that this sick woman who'd been laying in his cottage for however many days was not his wife. His argument was that she was 2 inches taller than his actual wife. Okay. And in his words, she's too fine to be his wife.
Damn.
I don't know if he means too fine in the sense of like too refined, like genteel, or too fine as in she's way hotter than my wife. I'm not really sure like which of those two meanings, because that word doesn't necessarily mean the same thing nowadays in slang that it meant back then. So I'm not really sure if she's saying like this lady is like too hot to be my wife, and also this woman's taller. I don't know. It was just like this weird. I don't know what convinced him. He's like, this isn't really my wife. She's not the same. So his theory was that, I mean, it's not funny because this ended up really, really bad, but I don't know what gave him this idea. He thought that when she went to deliver the eggs and had been hanging out at the fairy fort, that the fairies had taken her and replaced her with essentially a changeling. That was what his belief was. So he thought this woman that was convalescing in his house was not his wife any longer, but a lookalike. Okay? And now you can see how this is not going to end well already. So I don't know, like the dude who was, I think it was his uncle, the dude that she had gone to like deliver eggs to, I think, or it was a friend of her husband or somebody. There was somebody in the town that was really a believer in this type of thing. And apparently this guy, whose name was Jack Dunn, and he was kind of like the town psychic, I guess, like sorcerer, soothsayer, whatever the fuck you want to call it. So he was like in this village. He was that guy. And so he was supposed to know all about the fairies and the changelings and whatnot. So it might have been him that planted this idea in Michael's head that, hey, that bitch isn't your wife anymore. I think she's been replaced. So, wait, holy crap. So I can't even imagine. So after the doctor had come on Wednesday, a priest shows up also. Now, he didn't seem all that, because he's like, okay, she seems like she's sick, but she's going to get better. But just in case, I'm going to give her the last rites, which might have been a little alarming. They're just like, well, just in case I can't get back here, she's probably not going to die. But in case she does die, I better have given her the last rites. Which, you know, he's just thinking ahead, I guess. So he did give her actually the last rites, even though apparently he didn't actually think she was going to die. But, you know. But the fact that he did that, I guess that kind of like strengthened her husband's belief that, oh, well, she's going to die. And that like kind of increased his stress even more. And so he goes and talks to, you know, the village medium or whatever the fuck, Jack Dunn. And he's like, what should I do about this? Like, she might die. Is she my wife or not? And Jack Dunn's basically says, and at least according to accounts, Jack Dunn basically says, you better do something right now, because, dude, that's not actually your wife. And if you don't do something right now, then your real wife, wherever she is, you're going to lose her forever. It's like this whole situation. So he says it's been 8 days, and you should have gone to, there was another dude in town that was like the fairy doctor. Okay, that's like what they called him. So I guess he was like the dude that knew, you were the dude that got consulted on matters of fairy things, I guess. So, you know, I guess everybody's got to have like a niche that they fill, I suppose. So back then, you were the doctor that dealt with all the fairy ailments, you know. So Michael goes to this fella whose name was Gainey, and he goes to that guy the next day. And that guy says, okay, well, if she's not really your wife, you need to... He gave Michael this kind of like concoction. It was like this, you know, spell type of thing. And it was all these herbs. And he's like, okay, well, take this little bag of herbs and you have to boil it in essentially the milk. Like after a cow has calved and then it, you know, the first milk that it produces after that. they call it new milk. So you have to boil it in that. Because like I said, it's some witchcrafty shit. So it's like, you have to do that. And then make her drink it. So again, making people drink nasty things, the episode. This is basically what this is. So Michael does that, and he makes Bridget drink it. And so Michael is there, Jack Dunn is there, the town medium or whatever, and then there's 3 other dudes that are like relatives. So they're basically holding this poor woman down and forcing these herbs and milk, you know, concoction, this milkshake or whatever, like down her throat, right? And then Michael, supposedly, at least according to some of the other people that were there, or neighbors or whatever, was yelling at her, and this is a quote, "Take it, you witch, or I'll kill you."
Damn.
All the other dudes start throwing piss on her.
What?
Which, you know, nice. And so basically, like, all of these, obviously this is causing quite a commotion. So all the neighbors and other relatives and shit who have heard about this are all coming over to kind of check out what the fuck is going on. None of them help her, though, because apparently they all are either scared of Michael or they actually do think that probably she's a changeling or possessed by fairies or whatever. So they're like, okay, well, this is for her own good. So they're basically like holding her down, throwing pee on her, and making her like drink a bunch of like disgusting crap and yelling in her face, you know, to get out, like it's like a exorcism type situation. So at this point, Michael says to her, you have to answer your name 3 times. So her maiden name was Bridget Boland. So he keeps asking her, are you Bridget Boland, wife of Michael Cleary, in the name of God? And then they take her out of bed, because like I said, there's 3 or 4 of them. They pick her up out of the bed, and they basically like hold her like over the fireplace, right? So she's like kind of burning, right? Because apparently the belief was that the fairies, if you held the person over fire, the fairies would pop out because they didn't like it. It was like a trial by fire thing. So that's what they were doing. So this poor fucking woman, she's like, look, I just have pneumonia. Will you please just fucking leave me alone? It's like, why are you doing this? I don't know. I can't imagine what she was fucking thinking. So this goes on for like at least like 24 hours or more. And at this point, so all this shit has happened. According to accounts, Bridget at this point is quote unquote wild and deranged. I'm like, yeah, I guess so. I'd be pretty wild and deranged too if my fucking husband had all these big dudes coming over, holding me over the fireplace and throwing piss on me. Yeah, I'd also be pretty deranged.
Where'd you get the piss?
Well, I guess they produced it.
They just pissing in glasses and throwing on them?
Yeah, I guess I'm assuming that's what it was.
What weird shit is that? That's some fucking water sports shit that these guys pulled out of their asses.
I can't imagine.
What year was this again?
1895.
They should have known better by the 1890s.
Well, you would think that, but
yeah.
no. But no. So
dumbasses.
So yeah, so she's angry, understandably. But I guess Michael was like, okay, well maybe the fairies are gone now, or maybe this is her back, or whatever the fuck. I don't know if he thought that she'd actually been physically taken away and replaced, or if she thought she was like possessed, like the fucking like Reagan in The Exorcist. I don't really know what's going on here. So the next day, Michael had asked the priest to come, and then the priest comes, much like The Exorcist, and says mass in Bridget's room, and this is supposedly supposed to get rid of like whatever evil spirits were left kind of hanging around in the house, right? So this is the Thursday, and yeah, so she had come back to the house on Friday or whatever. I don't remember how long it had been. So that was the Thursday. So the next day, which is Friday, Bridget had been in bed for 11 days sick at this stage, you know, and getting peed on and whatnot. So 11 days, she seems to feel better. So she gets out of bed and she puts her clothes on, you know, like she would. And a bunch of their relatives came over for tea or lunch or whatever. And then while they're all at the table, everything seems cool and like genteel and everything like that. But then a fight breaks out because, okay, this is like so innocuous. They're having tea and scones or whatever the fuck. And Bridget very innocently apparently asks, hey, can I have some milk? Probably to put in her tea because that's kind of a thing they do. And her husband has a fucking flip out. Oh my God, that's what fairies want. Fairies want fresh milk, so you must still be possessed.
What?
She's like, bitch,
Yeah,
all I
some
wanted
milk.
was some milk. Seriously. Oh my God. I can't believe. Like I said, this is about to get like way worse. So like, don't.
Shit.
I mean, oh my God. So she, at this point, she's like, look, dude, I just wanted some milk. She didn't say this, but I'm pretty sure probably what she was thinking. She's like, look, dude, I just wanted some milk. Why did you calm the fuck down? And then she says to him, probably unwisely, although I'm not blaming the victim, I swear. She says to him, hey, your mom, she made a your mom joke.
Yeah.
Your mom used to hang out with the fairies. Is that why you're so fucking obsessed with like me hanging out with? Because look, it's me, okay? I'm your wife, just chill.
Yeah.
But yeah, she made a your mom comment, which probably, like I said,
You and your mama with them fairies.
yeah, not a wise decision. She's like, well, she was making the argument, is this why you're so obsessed of me being like possessed by fairies? Because like your mom used to hang out with all the fairies.
Yeah,
your
right.
mom's so fat. Yeah, it's like that. It was that kind of thing. So of course, Michael did not take this well. He's like, don't talk about my mom like that. And so at this point, for whatever, I'm not really sure what the cultural context of this is, but he's like, okay, bitch, now you have to eat 3 pieces of bread with jam on them. I don't know if this is because fairies are notorious for not being able to do that, or I don't really know. But he was insistent that she had to eat 3. I don't know how big the pieces of bread were. I don't know how much jam we're talking about. I don't know if we're talking about like more than a human could eat. I don't really know. But he's like, yeah, so you have to eat 3 pieces of bread with jam on them. And he's like, also, you have to say what your name is, and you have to say it like 3 times, because that's apparently like a ritualistic thing. So she said what her name is 2 times, which apparently that wasn't good enough, and she could only get 2 pieces of bread down, because maybe, like I said, maybe it was big hunks of bread, and she's like, dude, I'm gluten intolerant. I don't know. So it's like she couldn't really eat that much. And when she was going to say her name the 3rd time, apparently she hesitated a second, which was all Michael needed to be like, you are still possessed by the fairies. And he throws her down on the ground and says, and forces the bread in her throat, right? And then says, if you won't take it, down you will go. That's what he said. According to like everybody.
Die? If you don't eat it, you're gonna die. Damn.
Spoiler alert, yes, that's what happened.
Shit, man.
So he basically, like, he throws her on the ground, he puts his knee on her chest, and then forces the bread into her mouth. And then he starts ripping her clothes off, because of course he did. So she's just there in like her little underdress or whatever. And then he takes a stick, like a burned stick, like out of the fire with like, embers on it, and starts putting it like up to her mouth. And then he pulls up her head and like whacks it against the floor. And then he set her underdress on fire, like with the stick.
Now, what's he trying to accomplish with this?
He's trying to he thinks she's possessed by fairies. This isn't his wife. She's a changeling. And he thinks that by exorcising her or destroying her, that he's either going to get the fairies out or that he's going to get his actual wife back. Maybe. Did he really believe that? He seemed to. But yeah, so he set her on fire. So he had the stick had the embers on it from the fireplace, and he puts that like up to her. It was like her little underdress, like a chemise or whatever. And he sets that on fire, and then he picks up, there's like a paraffin lamp, and he picks that up and pours that lamp oil all over her.
Whoa, set her bitch on,
Yes,
on fire.
She's alive.
God damn. He's crazy. How much has this motherfucker been drinking?
I don't know.
How much has he been drinking?
I'd have to drink more than that to set a live person on fire, that's for sure. I mean, yeah, it's terrible.
He's crazy.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, he's crazy.
So he pours the paraffin oil like all over from the lamp, like pours it all over her, which obviously makes the flames like go, ooh,
oh,
yay.
Yeah. That's like pouring gasoline on something.
Right. So she's burning, and then, okay, so it's not just them two in the house. There's other relatives and shit. If you remember, they were all like having tea, like all genteel and everything, and all of a sudden he just sets his wife on fire. As one does in the middle of a dinner party, I suppose.
And everybody's just like...
Everyone's just kind of standing around like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Well, I think everyone was kind of shocked at first. Right. Like I said, I think some of them... I don't know if some of them were like just scared of him and they were scared to do anything about it, or they didn't want to intervene, or they actually did think she was possessed and they're like, yeah, you do it. I don't really know. But they were all just kind of like shocked, like standing there like, oh my God, you just set your wife on fire. And then he looks at them and he says, she's not my wife. She's an old deceiver sent in place of my wife. Now, at this point, I guess the other relatives were like, dude, like, put her out, please. This is going a little far, just saying. But so he did actually, I don't know if he actually tried to put out the flames, but they were like yelling at it. And I think a couple of them did kind of come forward and try to. But by this point, like I said, it's like it's that lamp oil and she just like fucking burned up and there's like nothing anybody could do.
Damn.
So yeah, she just like burned up like in a couple of minutes. So apparently all the other rulers are like, fuck this. And they just like went in the other room and they're just like, holy shit, I can't believe I just fucking saw that shit. That's fucking crazy. So once her body is kind of like burned down, Michael wraps her body up in a sheet, shoves it into a bag, and then leaves the body in there, like with the relatives, and he like locks them all in. And then he basically like, he's praying outside the house for about an hour. And then he comes back in the house with a knife. And then he says, okay, one of you bitches, and I think he was specifically talking to Bridget's cousin, Patrick, and he's like, one of you bitches is going to help me bury her, or I'm going to stab you to death. So, you know.
So, no, wait, hold on. No murder charges.
Well, we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, so he says to Patrick, he's like, I'm going to stab you if you don't help me, like, bury her. I have a hole already dug. So Patrick is like, okay, just don't stab me. So they
How old were these people?
I would say young. They were, I don't know. I don't know actually. They're 20s, I imagine.
20s? Shit.
Maybe 30s. I don't know. So they drag the body up to this kind of bog, which is about a quarter mile away, and they bury it in the hole that he's made. And then Michael goes back to the house and says to everybody that's still there, hey, nobody tell the cops, essentially.
Okay, yeah.
So he did know that he did something bad. He wasn't that crazy. Now, the next morning, though, Michael apparently shows up at the local church with Jack Dunn, who was like the town medium or whatever, who was the one that basically said, hey, your wife is like not really your wife anymore. Who kind of like gave him that idea, or at least that's kind of like what he said anyway. So Jack says, yeah, you need to, like, tells Michael, you need to talk to a priest. So the priest comes in, the priest sees him, like, Michael's, like, crying and, like, tearing his hair out, and he's, like, praying in front of the altar and shit like that. I need to go to confession, I did something really bad. And the priest is like, yeah, I'm not going to give you the sacrament. I don't think this is a good situation. So he goes and talks to Jack Dunn. And Jack Dunn, actually, I don't think he was actually at the cottage when the whole burning thing happened, even though it was maybe allegedly his idea. But he's like, yeah, but Michael told me, yeah, I burned my wife to death the previous night, but he didn't think it was really her. And he says, I think that we should go, like, dig her up and give her a Christian burial. And then at this point, the priest is like, are you guys both high? What the fuck? It's like, he didn't really believe it. He just thought it was this crazy story. Yeah. But he's like, well, I'm going to go tell the cops anyway. So the priest actually did go and tell the cops. He's like, I don't know if this is, like, you might want to go check this out. I think they're lunatics, but whatever. So the next couple days, like, the cops are actually, like, looking for Bridget because obviously she's missing. So the friends and relatives of hers that weren't there, they're kind of like, have you seen her? Nobody had. And apparently during this time, Michael, the husband, was talking about, oh, he's going to leave the country or he's going to kill himself or some shit like that. But he still seemed to believe, at least according to people that like heard him talking during this time period, that he actually thought, even though he seemed to feel bad about what he did, he actually really did seem to think that his real wife was going to come back at some point. Because they said, like, for 3 nights, he went back to that fairy ring thing, and he waited there all night because he thought that the real Bridget was going to come back on a white horse and be like, oh my God, thank you for saving me. I had been taken away by the fairies. Like, I think he actually thought that was going to happen.
He was hoping that would happen.
Yeah, so he's like, otherwise I am in such deep shit.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it was. I kind of feel like
I think maybe he thought she was a fairy, and then he burned her up. And he was like,
and then he's like,
it's like, oh shit, I don't think she was.
Oopsie.
But he had to stick with that.
Yeah. So maybe. Yeah, maybe he's like, it would probably look better if I go and like wait for her. Yeah. So yeah, he did that, but obviously. I think
he thought she was a fairy, and then I think that she was a changeling. But then I think they're leaving part of the story out. Motherfucker was probably low IQ to begin with. And then he might have been deep into drink when that shit happened.
I imagine this is Ireland we're talking about.
I mean, you could
Not that I
drink a
can
fifth in Ireland back in those days, and they wouldn't consider that as, oh, he's sober as a fucking... he didn't hardly have any. So,
Just a drop in the ocean.
Just
Come on.
Yeah. Not enough to affect you. That's probably how they were fucking thinking back then, you know.
Probably.
So, I mean, the 1800s, I mean, I'm not picking on the Irish, but they're just notorious.
Well, I mean, back then, people drank an alarming amount.
They had a high tolerance. And the same thing was really going on in the fucking Old West. And then, you know, it was a lot of Irish and German stock, you know, fucking ended up in them damn saloons, fucking in the Old West, shooting each other up. And a lot of things they don't tell you is that the fastest guns in the West were fucking with cocaine. You could get it at goddamn any dentist or any apothecary.
Well, that would make you a fastest gun.
Yeah, and they were fucking pouring that shit inside fucking wine and drinking it, and then they would drink beer and fucking whiskey all fucking night. And then they drink Coca-Cola to wake them up, and it had more cocaine in it. Those dudes were fucking loaded.
Like I said, I don't know how people lived longer than.
And a lot of those gunfights, you know, it's not like what they'd show you in these fucking Wild West movies. I mean, they had some good ones. Most of those fucking gunfights involved dudes drunk off their asses who had smuggled a gun into the fucking into the fucking saloon because they collected your guns. Really, you know, you've been able to walk into a fucking saloon with a gun on your hip. Most towns wouldn't allow that. They collected your guns, and the cops took them. And you had to keep them at the sheriff's station, you know. And you got them when you left town. You recollected them. You signed them in. But they had fucking holdout pieces, you know. Little concealable derringers, 2-shot, 1-shot. You know, and those things were, some of them were muzzle loaders, some of them were percussion cap, some of them, you know, were fucking, you know, percussion caps were muzzle loaders. Some of them were fucking metallic case cartridge, depending on what year you're talking about. So a lot of those gunfights happened inside the fucking bar with concealed weapons, shot at very close range, or shot at the back. They were shooting people in the back a lot. Sometimes it would happen outside the bar, you know, and it looked like a gang fight. It would today, if you were to see that shit, if you were to go back in time and see an Old West gunfight, it would just look like crime. That's all it was. Fighting over fucking cards, accusing people of cheating, getting mad that some dude fucking slept with your girlfriend even though she's a hooker at the brothel. You know, just crazy shit. You know what I mean? She's a hooker at the brothel, and you slept with her, and he thinks that's his girlfriend, so he shot you. They did all kinds of crazy shit back then, and it wasn't the high noon shit at all. But and some of that happened. The closest thing to the high noon gunfight in the Old West was fucking shootout at the OK Corral between the clans, and if you read the details of that, that was not some high noon fucking gunfight. That would have looked more like gay warfare.
Well, yeah,
you know, that's the way it really was.
Real life isn't as cinematic as cinema.
Shot each other in the back mostly.
Yeah.
And they were drunk. A lot of those fucking.
Yeah, they probably didn't remember what they did the next day. Like, wait, did I shoot some motherfuckers yesterday? Yeah. I don't know. I've shot so many motherfuckers, I can't remember.
The closest thing to a fucking movie style fucking Wild West gunfighter, something like out of the movies, would have been John Wesley Hardin. And he was kind of like our version of Musashi. He killed a lot of dudes. But they were all considered to be self-defense because people were fucking with him because he had killed a bunch of dudes in self-defense. So you had to fucking kill this dude to prove that you could kill him.
Once you kill that many dudes in self-defense, everybody's going to be like, hey, I'm going to go fuck with this motherfucker.
Now, the caveat to this is that Hardin could basically shoot anybody and say it was self-defense. They were scared of him. That he was.
See, it's always nice to kind of get to that plateau, isn't it?
Yeah, they were fucking scared of him.
And then that would like feed into that because it's like now I can just shoot motherfuckers with impunity and no one's gonna do anything.
Basically. He shot one. Now the legend was that he shot a man for snoring. That's only half true. He was drunk up in the fucking hotel, and a dude in the room next to him was snoring, and he was drunk, and that dude was drunk, and he shot the wall to wake the dude up. But the bullet went through the wall and hit the dude.
Well, it got him to stop snoring, so win-win.
Sorry, killed him. But Hardin was acquitted. It was an accident. I mean, he didn't run. He fell asleep and stayed there in the fucking bed. You know what I mean? They came and fucking. He didn't try to flee the scene. And he was like, I hit him. I was drunk. I just shot at the wall.
Whoops.
Trying to wake him. He was snoring.
And everybody's like, yeah, I don't want to sleep next to a snoring person either.
Yeah, and he did do some time. I don't think it was long. I think it was 6, 7, 8 years, something. And when he got out, he became when he was locked up in a small jail. Really, they treated him pretty well. When he got out, while he was in there, he studied law. When he got out, he was a lawyer. And he made a living as a lawyer and doing trick shots. He did a bunch of trick shots out in public, with shooting cards and stuff, shooting coins. Some people were saying that some of those trick shots and those Wild West guys, that's all legend. No, some of those dudes were really good. Really good. The best one was fucking Wild Bill. Wild Bill was fucking unbeatable. If Wild Bill wanted you dead, you were fucking dead. And he was a nice guy, though. He just had a Wild West show and everything, but he was just the best trick shot probably in history. I mean, he could make a living off doing trick shots. And people were terrified of him. He did kill some people. They deserved it, though, from a Wild West standpoint. If you try to kill somebody, they just fucking killed you.
Tammy says, there are nights I could shoot my husband for snoring. Yeah, I know that feeling. I know that feeling.
So what I'm getting at is that we're not getting all the story in this case. This motherfucker was probably loaded when this happened.
I imagine most of these people were loaded pretty much all the time.
This probably happened at a dinner party where they were fucking way under the influence. And she was probably loaded.
That's what I'm saying. I'm sure everybody in this situation was probably loaded, so I'm sure it was just not a good situation all around. Gramther's Hammer said, if you ever watched the Ken Burns PBS documentary on Prohibition, back in the day, people drank all day, every day, even kids. Yeah. Basically, we were a nation of pisshead drunks. Yeah, so like I said, a lot of the crazy-ass behavior could maybe be attributed to everyone just being off their fucking heads drunk or on. And like I said, a lot of drugs were legal.
Yeah. And little kids smoked. That's another thing. Little kids out there fucking burning cigarettes. But yeah, man, it's fucking funny when you think about it. Little kids smoking.
It's good for you.
Yeah.
It's good for you. But yeah, it's like I said, again, I was like reading Drood, which is fiction, but he used like a lot of real shit that happened. It's about Wilkie Collins, who was an opium addict. And something that was going on a lot. Opium was legal, but and laudanum was legal, but it was usually something you'd put like a couple drops of opium like in your wine or something to kind of get a buzz or like as a painkiller. Whereas Wilkie Collins was like drinking glasses of the shit every day, like 3 big glasses of stuff. So he was probably like hallucinating out the ass without even like fucking.
Another thing that Gramters, who's a friend of mine, we grew up. In case you don't know the show, he's a friend of mine. We grew up together. He's an ex-law man, and I wanted to fucking clean something up. What I told you was true about the Old West, but I don't want to fuck with it. I don't want to fuck or distort American history. The Wild West was nowhere near as violent as people think it was. Per capita, it was pretty peaceful. Especially in those towns. It was, by today's standards, would have been very quiet. You did have some towns that did explode into violence, but those were temporary towns, mostly around mining operations. And they were only there for maybe a year or two. And it was young guys, dumb as fuck. There weren't any women around. They didn't have much money, and they were trying to make a bunch of money. A lot of alcohol, lots of guns.
They didn't have anything better to do than just like shoot each other.
Yeah, in the towns, in those Wild West towns, it was mostly quiet and pretty orderly. All the cool shit that you see in those Western movies, like with Clint Eastwood, actually was happening out on the plains between Indians and fucking settlers and fucking just white dudes, right? The action was on the fucking Great Plains. That's where a lot of it was going down. And that was kind of like equivalent to, say, the age of empire on the high seas with piracy. It'd be like that. Pirates.
But like I said, I kind of feel like because human history is so long, 99.99% of human history is just people just doing regular shit and just having like a quiet, normal life and nothing exciting happening.
Yeah, most people.
You only hear about the 1% of exciting shit.
Yeah.
So it seems like a lot more exciting than it is.
Most people that went to the so-called Wild West just went out there to have fun, and not much bad happened to them. You know, they tried to pan for gold or make a living out in some town somewhere, and it was.
Yeah, it's just like, they drank and went to hookers, and then like they died of cirrhosis or whatever the fuck they died of.
Just got sick and died, or didn't survive some winter for some reason or another. Shit like that.
I mean, most people, just like nowadays, most people just died in really mundane ways. They died of diseases or, you know, in a dumbass accident or something like that. Like I said, most people don't die in exciting ways.
My studies of it is that it was an environment that I would have loved. I would have gone out there and probably just made friends and hung out and done kind of mundane shit, gotten kind of bored with it, done a lot of fucking camping out on the range and fishing and trying to figure out a way to fucking find some gold.
Tom on the range.
Yeah, it would have... it wouldn't have been anywhere near as fucking stressful or fucking as adventurous as most of those movies would have made it out to be.
Well, like I said, a movie is a movie because that's all the exciting shit with the boring shit cut out.
All the boring shit got cut out.
Most people's lives are like super, super boring. Yeah. But that's why we watch movies, because that's all the exciting shit with the boring shit cut out.
Traveling, riding around on a horse, deer hunting, and fishing. And making a fire and sleeping.
And honestly, everybody like drank and did so much opium back then, they probably need to remember most of the shit that happened to them, to be honest.
They didn't live long anyway.
Well, that's probably one of the reasons why.
Yeah, if you made it to 50, you were real lucky.
That and all the diseases and them like not washing their hands and drinking poop water and shit like that. Which,
well, it wasn't that bad in the West.
No, it wasn't. That was actually cleaner than...
that was clean living.
Yeah. But,
because the population density was so low.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of other people around to like give you like infectious diseases and
as long as
you weren't walking down a street that was like piled high on either side with like human waste.
As long as you weren't Jeremiah Johnson trying to make a living out on the tops of frozen mountains, in the winter, you were all right. In America, America didn't get that cold if you weren't in the mountains. And
as long as you're not in like fucking Minnesota or some shit, because that shit gets
I'm talking about in the West, in Indian territory. It didn't get that cold in the winter.
No, it doesn't.
You could fish all year round. There, buffalo and shit, and deer. They ate pretty well. That didn't last long though. You know what I mean? Trains happened, and then cars and all that shit. But there were dudes that lived. There were a couple generations of guys that lived like that.
Yeah. All right. So where was I? This is almost done. I swear to God. All right, so this dude, whether or not he really did believe this or not, I don't really know. But he did like kind of hang out at the fairy fort for 3 days, thinking that his actual real wife was going to come back. Like you said, probably hoping that she would, because otherwise I'm in big trouble. But spoiler alert, she didn't. So what happened was that the Royal Irish Constables, they actually put out arrest warrants, not only for his dumbass, but also for a bunch of other people who would like encourage this atrocious behavior, including Dennis Gainey, who was the fairy doctor dude in town. Everybody that had kind of like just been at the house and not done anything about it, essentially. So they put out like a bunch of arrest warrants. 2 days later, they found Bridget's body. She was 26 years old. I didn't know that, but I just saw that in my notes. She was 26 years old when she died. They had buried her in this little shallow kind of hole they'd made in the clay, like underneath all these thorn bushes. They said that her spine and her legs were burned so badly that you could see like a bunch of her bones. Like, so she was burned like down to the bone pretty much.
3rd degree.
Yeah, and all her clothes were gone. So all her clothes have been burned off. I think she only had like a little nightgown on, but yeah, she was naked. She had one stocking on and a gold earring on, and they'd put a sack over her head for whatever reason. So they arrested all the motherfuckers that were there at the time, and they get brought before the magistrates in March of 1895, and the whole town had kind of heard about it at this point, and they were pissed off about this situation. I don't think they believed that she was like they didn't believe his stupid story, so they were pissed off. They all came like screaming at everybody when they were brought in. So they bring them all in. And they have a 2-day trial. Michael Cleary is found guilty of manslaughter, which...
Yeah, I would fit that.
I guess, but it wasn't premeditated.
No, and
it wasn't apparently.
And it was sufficient provocation to deprive someone of cool reasoning and calm reflect. That kind of thing. In other words, he got so upset thinking that she was
she wasn't her
that he couldn't think straight and did it. So yeah, manslaughter.
So I guess like it sounds dumb, but like when you think about it, logically,
he didn't mean to kill his wife. He meant to kill this changeling.
The changeling,
and he was so upset he couldn't think right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it would have been
so that was the correct.
Right.
That was the correct.
I think that's correct.
I suppose.
He should have done some time though. But he does feel sorry for the shit. I don't think he did.
Well, yeah.
But
like you said, it might have been a situation where she was sick for all this time. Well, yeah, probably. Yeah. Well, she was sick for a long time. I'm not really sure what the illness was. It seems like she was out. She was running errands, like she was delivering eggs, like she did. She had a business, like selling eggs. So she was out doing that, and it was really cold. And then she got back, and she was sick, and she was in bed for 11 days. So she might have had like pneumonia or some shit like that. Yeah. But I guess... for whatever reason, her husband became convinced that because of this illness,
she's possessed. That
she must be like possessed, or this isn't her.
Yeah.
It's weird because I kind of feel like later on, some people have speculated. I don't know if this is the case, and there's no way of knowing, unless you invent a time machine. But some later people have speculated maybe Michael was suffering from what do they call it, like Capgras syndrome, where you think that everybody around you is an imposter.
Yeah.
Like looks exactly like, oh hey, you're my family, but not my family. You've all been replaced by exact duplicates.
I've heard of that before.
Yeah, it's very rare, but it does happen. It's a weird like psychological disorder. So they think maybe he had that.
Yeah.
And then was able to kind of like convince, because it does seem like, I don't know, because I do kind of feel like there is some evidence that his wife, Bridget, had said something to one of her relatives or friends like 3 months prior to this incident that that he thought that she was a fairy and that he was going to burn her, or she said something like that. So this might not have been the first time that this happened.
Yeah.
So maybe he had some kind of like psychological disorder where he would periodically go into these weird like fugue states where he thought that she wasn't her.
We're talking about schizophrenia.
Yeah, maybe he had some kind of problem like that. Yeah. Maybe. I mean, I don't think she was doing, because some people speculate, well, maybe it was her, maybe she was like cheating on himself. But I'm like, but still, that doesn't justify you like setting her on fire alive. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Just divorce her, for fuck's sake. It's like, I
don't think that's what it is.
I don't think so either. No. I think there was like some other shit going on.
Kind of mental problem with him, and he thought she was a fucking changeling. Schizophrenia, maybe. Or just superstition and alcohol mixed together. Whatever it was, he was fucking tripping.
Yeah. But I mean, so he did get imprisoned.
Yeah.
And a bunch of the other people, like Jack Dunn, the town medium or whatever the fuck he was, he actually got imprisoned also. So did...
How long did he get? Remember?
Oh, I don't know. It might say like later on in my notes. But yeah, Jack Boland, or Patrick Boland, who was the other guy who helped conceal the body.
Yeah.
He got some prison time also. Yeah. And also four of Bridget's cousins who were there like holding her down, like when he was trying to like do, they got some prison time too. So, like that's good verdicts all around, kind of say. They actually did kind of get the judge said, well, I don't think it's like murder because they actually did seem to think that it wasn't really her. But they still need to be punished because they still did some bad shit.
Oh, he's right, yeah.
But they did actually... Yeah, but he's like, they did actually seem to believe that they were doing something, not, you
gotta stop other people from doing that same shit.
Yeah.
You gotta make examples out of them.
So Michael did do a lot of prison time. So he went in 1895. He didn't get out until 1910.
Okay.
So he was in there... Yeah, so he was in there for... How long is that? 15 years.
15 years,
He was in for 15 years.
Yeah.
Which, that's pretty good. So he gets out.
His mind right.
Yeah. He gets out and he got on a ship for Montreal.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody heard of him after that. So he must have gone and like disappeared somewhere.
Living up in a cabin somewhere.
Yeah. Jack Dunn, the town medium, he got 3 years.
That's not right, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, he didn't do it. He wasn't there.
He inspired all this shit by making shit up.
Yeah, like Michael later said, I wouldn't have done it, but Jack Dunn convinced me that she wasn't really my wife, and so maybe I wouldn't have done it. I don't know if I believe that entirely. Maybe he's just trying to assuage some of the responsibility.
Quite in his right mind.
Obviously. But he did, yeah. So Jack Dunn did get 3 years. He got out. He came back to the same town and just went back to work like you do. So, but as I mentioned earlier, when Bridget was sick, during the 11 days she was bedridden, when all of this terrible shit was going on, before she got fucking burned alive or whatever, her aunt came over to visit her, and she apparently said, Michael's making, this is a quote apparently according to her aunt, Michael's making a fairy of me now. He thought to burn me about 3 months ago. So this is apparently not the first time this has happened, at least according to her. So maybe the husband was abusive, or maybe this was a delusion that he...
That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, I kind of feel like this is maybe a delusion that he had. But how scary is that, though? I mean... and
sounds like schizophrenia.
Well, because Tammy was saying earlier, she's like, can you imagine what she was thinking? It's this is her husband, this is somebody she's with every day. It's somebody that's supposed to love you and everything like that, and all of a sudden they get this weird idea in their head that you're not you anymore, or you're possessed by fairies. Oh, I'm gonna burn you to death. It's what? Holy shit.
It could be some rare thing like you're talking about, but I'm gonna say it's more something real common like schizophrenia. You know what I mean? They get certain kind of paranoid delusion.
I mean, it's got to be something like that.
He thinks that that's not her.
And like I said, later on, people said, oh, maybe she was fucking around on him and stuff like that. Yeah. I'm I don't care if she was fucking around him. That doesn't that is not even germane to the situation. No, that doesn't justify what he did to her.
Well, I don't think that's what they mean.
No.
They don't mean to justify it. They're just trying to say that maybe that's what he was thinking. So he was coming up. I don't think so though.
That he was coming up with some crazy ass story to do it. But still, it seemed I don't think so either. No. I think he really actually did seem to think, at least briefly. Yeah. That wasn't her.
He was having some kind of paranoid delusion. And he thought she was a fairy.
That's so scary, though. Yeah. Because that's something that you can't predict. That's something that you can't...
It'd be just like some dude thinking that she's a witch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Holy crap, can you imagine?
Yeah. Well, if you're wrong place, wrong time, that could cost you your life.
Yep, and it did.
I think that dude's a witch. I think she's a witch. I think my wife's a witch. And they'll fucking press your ass.
And he just, and the scary thing to me, and like I said, I saw there was a show and they did a reenactment of this, but can you imagine being, that being her and just she's sick for whatever. Like I said, it sounded like pneumonia or something like that. So she's in bed for 11 days. She doesn't feel all that good. Then all of a sudden, her husband and all these other dudes, relatives are coming and holding her down, making her drink all this stuff. And are you, and all this other,
very similar to the possession thing. And
it's like that. And then all of a sudden them pulling her out and then just setting her on fire.
Exorcism.
Oh my God, I can't imagine.
Basically, it's an exorcism.
Yeah, that's what they were doing.
But, I think what you're dealing with is you're dealing with a dude that has some kind of paranoid delusion. He's worried. He's afraid she's fucking possessed.
Holy crap.
And he's not mentally all that stable. And she gets sick and it finally gets into him. He's like, yeah, she's possessed. And, you're dealing with a bunch of drunks and some of them have fucking weird, superstitions. And their cultures are based in superstition and they jump right to action. Okay, we're gonna get the fairy out of her.
We're gonna take care of this.
And and if you're that woman, when you think about it, there's nothing really you're gonna be able to do or say, because if you try to reason with them, they're gonna go, "Oh, look, the fairy's trying to talk its way out of it." I mean,
that's what's so scary about it.
You'll be able to do anything. Yeah.
Well, see, that's what always scared me about all the witch panic type of stuff, because it seemed like if somebody anywhere just pointed a finger at you, you were fucked. Yeah. There was nothing you could say that would convince them otherwise.
Right, and that's what you're dealing with
once they had decided.
You're dealing with a witch panic.
Yeah, in one household.
Way out of date. I mean, this is late 1800s. These witches are supposed
this is almost the 20th century.
Yeah, they're supposed to know better, which makes me think of not bad education, alcohol, low IQ motherfuckers. Dude's got some kind of damned paranoid delusion, and he thinks she's a fucking witch, basically. and they're drunk, and he starts the cycle of fucking witch shit, and they fucking kill her. You know what I mean?
And like you said, once it got to a certain point, I don't think there's anything that she could have said that would have. And honestly, there's nothing she could have done either, because it wasn't just him. It was like there was, 3 or 4 other dudes in the house.
Yeah.
That apparently bought into the same delusion, so they were there to like hold her down, so she couldn't like escape.
Yeah.
God, can you imagine how scary that would be?
I'm thinking alcohol's involved.
God damn, that would be so fucking scary.
Alcohol and just stupidity. And then there's just like this group synergy,
Yeah, that's what I mean. All you need is like one dude that's like really convinced of something.
Yeah.
And a bunch of dudes that are just kind of like, whatever, and you can like talk him into it.
Yeah.
Which, that's not her. That's like, I'm telling you right now, it's my wife. I would know, wouldn't I?
Yeah.
You can see him like saying stuff like, oh.
Yeah. That's what happened.
Horrifying. That's fucking horrifying.
It was a long time ago, though.
I know, but it's like still, I don't know. I always kind of like put myself in the place of that person. It's like, I just can't imagine like what that must have been like.
You used to have stupid shit like this happening.
Well, I know that. Like, people are
over in Thailand, and
people are stupid here. There's stupid people everywhere. Right. Stupid people are eternal, sadly.
Every now and then they try to exorcise some kid and it kills it. You know what I mean? Fucking...
Yeah, it happens here.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna like put all these cushions around the kid because we're pretending that they're being reborn and it's like a womb and stuff, and then they suffocate. Yeah, I remember like reading something about that, and that was like here. That was like in the fucking Midwest somewhere.
They had that one little cult out in the desert. They were some kind of African Muslim cult or something. Remember that? And they crucified their own kid. Remember that shit? That was a weird shit. They had all the damn trucks in a circle. They showed camera of fucking helicopter shots of it. And they thought it was some weird mixture of Christianity and Islam and stuff. They were going to bring back the Mahdi if they sacrificed this boy, and it was the leader's son, and they thought that the son was a reincarnation of Jesus, and so he had to die in order for the Mahdi to come back. Don't you remember that?
Vaguely, I kind of remember
that was some weird shit too. You know what I mean? And he did that to his own son, out in the middle of the desert. That's some weird shit.
Just a pro tip. All that shit's not real. Yeah. So your kid is just your kid. Please do not sacrifice them. Yeah. They're not possessed by demons. I promise. Please don't do any of that stuff. Yeah. I mean, it's just like, none of that shit's real. Yeah. Please stop it. I don't know. It just bums me out. It bums me out. It bums my little atheist ass out.
Yeah.
That people will still do shit like that. Will kill their own fucking children.
Yeah.
Because they believe that so strongly. It's like, look, it's not real. It's like a fucking fairy tale. We just got,
I think, the first super chat of the night from Zachary.
All right. God damn it.
Thanks, Zach.
I'm behind. Oh, thank you. A story that always used to upset me was the little autistic boy who was killed in an exorcism because a priest convinced his parents he was possessed. Yeah, see, that kind of shit... That makes me just so sad. So sad. Like I said, it's just, if you believe something so strongly that you would kill your own poor innocent child over it, I mean, I can't think of anything more tragic than that.
Yeah. If you guys can remember that case I thought of,
God damn it.
Drop that in the comment section. I'd like to fucking find out some more about that. I remember when that happened, and then there was like a rumor that they let them all go, that they didn't charge them for crucifying the boy. I don't know if that's true.
I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, I find it hard to believe too. But there was like a rumor that they let the guy go. I don't think so though. But.
The thing about it is that in some way, it depends on what religion you are, obviously. But in some cases, they will give you a religious exception. Yeah. But I do not think that should be. I don't think that should be taken into consideration. I think that you should be given a psychological assessment because obviously you're not mentally right if you're doing that shit. But I don't get this whole, we genuinely thought that they were possessed by a demon, so we killed them because we thought, fuck that. Fuck that. Yeah. You're a terrible parent. You should have never had children. All of that's bullshit. Please do not kill your children doing that. Oh my God, that makes me so angry.
All right, so this one is over. This case is over.
Yeah, I told you.
All right. Then I guess we'll go ahead and call it a night, huh?
You think?
Yeah, it's getting late.
You want to? It's not. It's not even 8 o'clock.
What, you want to sit around and talk some more?
What's with my voice?
I don't know.
Have you noticed
I don't think there's anything wrong with your noise. It sounds the same.
No, I'm just saying. Well, I know because it's my voice. For the last week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, I've been doing videos. If you guys have watched any of my videos, like all the ones that I put up the last week, sometimes I'll say words and like the word just like drops out because my throat sounds like it's like fucking, I don't know what the deal is, man.
I don't know. You might have a little bit of cold.
I don't know if it's a cold or allergies. I don't know what it is. I don't feel like I have a cold, but
How long have we been streaming, though?
3 hours.
3 hours, okay.
3 hours.
All right.
Gramthur's Hammer says, come on, keep going.
Yeah. Well, we can go for a little bit, I guess. I'm getting kind of hungry.
This is like the pre-Halloween special,
Yeah.
though. Going a little bit longer.
Yeah.
I just like, these 2 cases were kind of short, and like I said, they're kind of a bummer, but at least they happened a long time ago.
It's
so.
a 3-hour show, though.
Yeah.
That's not show. It's not short.
Well,
Shorter than the 5 hours that we normally put.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We normally do, and probably that's the
Right.
thing. We normally do like 4 or 5 hours, so it's like when it's 3 hours, like what? It's only 3 hours. Well, like, we haven't like fucking, you know what I mean? Mike Coe says you shouldn't toy around with what you don't understand. Honestly, though, it's like I kind of feel like I don't know. I just the older I get, the less I believe in that stuff, and it's just kind of like these people that would actually kill their children because they actually believe that they're possessed by demons and stuff like that. I don't think they should be given any dispensation. I don't like, look, you're a dumbass. That's your fault.
Yeah.
The fact that you believe that stuff, it's like we don't have to like give you a fucking pass because of that. You killed a child.
Yeah, I don't think it's dumb though. I think what it is it's insanity. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean that has to be determined. If you really have some kind of mental illness, then that's a different issue.
I think it's almost always mental illness.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I know it's like a fucking, it's like a gray area. I get that, but
Religions can attract the mentally ill. The mentally
well,
ill
they do in a
fall
large,
Yeah, it doesn't mean you're crazy if you believe in religions. It's just that crazy people fall right into religions. They can they'll fucking swallow that shit hook, line, and sinker sometime, and then they'll go out and sacrifice somebody. But there's a lot of shit that's wacky. People will believe in. Crazy people will believe in shit that's wacky, like a moth to a flame. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and see, that's where the problem lies.
Yeah.
That's where I'm saying that's where there's a gray area, because I'm not saying that everybody that believes in religions is crazy, because obviously that's not the case, because there's billions of people that believe in religions. I don't, but I'm not going to shit on people that do. But there's also the case where people that are already mentally ill are very attracted to these types of, and very like extreme religious positions. And honestly, like a lot of people that have certain types of disorders, like epilepsy or something like that, like a lot of the, in schizophrenia, a lot of the kind of like hallucinatory like episodes that they have are religious in nature. So there is kind of like a correlation. It's not causation, but there is a correlation between very, very high religious belief and very, very high mental illness. There are, so like I said, it's not the same thing. They're correlated, but one doesn't cause the other, but they are correlated. So I don't know. That's always been kind of like interesting to me. So, but like I said, that's why there's a whole gray area, because
a lot of the mentally ill, though, that get into religion, they interpret religion the way they want to interpret it. They'll mix 3 or 4 different religions together and make up their own stories about it. It's always self-serving.
And I kind of feel like that's true of everybody,
Right.
but it's all, like I said, it's all like kind of a matter of degree, isn't it? Because you kind of get to a point where you're kind of like fitting stuff into a pre-existing, you want the religion to like fit into some shit that you've already figured out.
Yeah.
And if you have some kind of like mental illness and you have like some really weird kind of shit that you figured out, then you're gonna like kind of pretzel that religion into that shit that you've already figured out.
I yawned, and Pookie, we found that shit unacceptable.
I can't believe Pookie's been sleeping over the whole time.
I yawned, and she's just like, what?
You guys can't see her, but she's right there.
She's in the chair next to me.
She's in the chair.
Yeah.
We put that chair there with her little toys in it that Elsa sat.
Yeah.
Yeah, Elsa's still here. Oh, she loves the crinkly.
Yeah, she likes that. You like
Oh.
You like that crinkly Dracula?
She's looking at it like, ooh.
Yeah.
When I opened that earlier, it's a Dracula and it's like a little black cat and they're crinkly and I'm sure they have like catnip in them. So I took them both out of the bag because she was like, open the bag. So I took them both out and I put them on either side of her face and I was like, we love you, Pookie. And she was so into it. She was just kind of like, oh yeah.
Graham says, I watched Solo last night on Showtime. It's about a stripper from Detroit who goes to Tampa for a weekend and crazy shit happens. Based on a true story. And A24 Studios made it. Plus, Ryan Lee. I don't know that show. Yeah,
we're gonna have to watch that.
What's it called again? Zola?
Yeah. But we're gonna have to see what happened in Tampa. All kind of crazy shit happened in Tampa.
Crazy shit's happening in Tampa right now, tonight.
I mean, crazy shit always happens in Tampa.
Yeah.
I used to live in Tampa, so I know.
Yeah.
And we've been to Tampa many times.
Yeah.
Every time we go to Tampa, crazy shit happens.
Yeah. Tampa's kind of like the New Orleans of fucking
At least Ybor City is.
Yeah, Ybor City is. Yeah.
I mean, Ybor City is technically part of Tampa.
Yeah, that's the New Orleans of Florida.
That's like the old town.
Yeah.
Part of Tampa.
Kinda.
That's where all the pirates used to hang out.
Yeah. Although, I heard that the Keys are fucking really fun too, down there.
One of these days we'll have to go. I don't think. You know what? I've lived in Florida most of my life. I was born here. I've never been to the Keys.
Yeah.
Never been to the Keys. But
if you go to the Keys, you're gonna have to go fishing. Really, that's all you do down there.
Yeah, but that's boring.
Yeah, be boring to you.
I mean, well, I went fishing a lot when I was a kid.
Yeah.
My dad was into fishing.
Problem is that you gotta charter a boat, and it costs a lot of money.
That's true.
Yeah.
One of these days, our friend Will was kind of like, "Oh man, you guys need to come to the Keys with us. Like, do a vacation."
Oh, you guys love it. Yeah. He says there's a lot of good bars down there.
There are. Yeah. It's kind of known for that.
Yeah.
It is a very New Orleans vibe, but more Florida-y and more Cuban-y.
Yeah.
Than New Orleans.
A lot of sand and shit. Fucking, you can just fucking drink.
It's also kind of, Margaritaville-y, like Jimmy Buffett-y.
Jimmy Buffett-y.
Which I'm not super jazzed about that. I mean, I think I've told this story before, but I first moved to Tampa. I mean, you live in Florida. You're aware of Jimmy Buffett, okay? Yeah. Everybody knows who Jimmy Buffett is in Florida. It's kind of a thing. I moved to Tampa, and I started working in this print shop, and the dude that owned the print shop was seriously the world's biggest Jimmy Buffett fan, like, of all time. Fine, okay? I'm not judging. But he had this one Jimmy Buffett CD. I don't know which one it was. And he used to play it over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
And I worked at this place for a month, and I said, literally, I think I'm going to kill myself if I have to hear this fucking CD one more fucking time. And he had this other kid that worked there that was like 18 or something. And this 18-year-old kid, and I imagine this is probably why he hired him, this 18-year-old kid was also like the second biggest Jimmy Buffett fan in the universe. So I kind of, they were just like, ooh, they were simpatico.
Yeah.
So that's why he hired him. Like, he could do some printing shit too, but So this 18-year-old kid, so while I worked there a month and then I couldn't take it anymore. But while I worked there, the owner, who was probably like in his 40s or 50s, I don't remember how old he was, and the 18-year-old kid went to see Jimmy Buffett live, because I guess he played there at some stage. And after that happened, it was just like, if it was bad before, it was like 10 times worse. Like, the Jimmy Buffetude was just, it just went off the charts after that point. It's just like, and they were so excited, and they would like play the CD over and over, and they were like, remember when he did this and that? And they would like singing along, and I'm just like, oh my God, please.
That's funny.
Please kill me. Oh my God. I couldn't take it anymore.
The world she's talking about, they made a movie about it called Beach Bum.
Oh my God.
The movie Beach Bum expresses exactly what the fucking
I was very familiar with
that had a lot of buffetude in it, a lot of fucking drunk worthlessness in it. Snoop Dogg was in it because that bitch lives down there.
It was very much like that.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, I'm not from the same universe as you people. I don't really know what's going on. Ilsa said there's an 18-year-old Jimmy Buffett fan. I was also surprised.
Yeah.
I didn't know that existed. Apparently it does. There's at least one. So, and if like looking at him, I can't really remember. I kind of have a hazy memory of him, but he didn't really look like if he was walking down the street, you wouldn't be like, "Hey, Jimmy Buffett fan," like Parrot Head or whatever they call them now. Parrot Head, I think they call him. I was like, you wouldn't think that. So I was very surprised also, but man, the two of them were just kind of like, oh man, oh. And that CD, just that, it was kind of like when I had a house in Daytona and like our next door neighbor, I can't even remember what his name is. Our next door neighbor was like the world's biggest Lynyrd Skynyrd fan. Oh, yeah. Which is another thing. This is why I'm crazy.
The biker bar is fucking Lynyrd Skynyrd fucking
This
wall
is why I'm
wall.
crazy. So the dude next door to me was the world's biggest Lynyrd Skynyrd fan when I owned a house in Daytona. Yeah. And also, he liked to work out in his yard at, starting at 6:30 a.m. Now, I worked the night shift. So I didn't get home until like 3:30 in the morning. So I like to sleep till like 9 or 10 at least. This bitch gets up at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, blaring that same Lynyrd Skynyrd Greatest Hits CD or whatever the fuck it was.
With Who That Smell?
Singing along at the top of his lungs.
With Who That Smell? Ooh, that smell.
Well, yeah.
Can't you smell that smell? Hell yeah.
Can you imagine putting out a single nowadays called That Smell?
Yeah.
I'm like, what were they thinking?
Just thinking about weed.
I mean, I get that, but like shit, man, the drugs back then, it's like people would not be thinking about weed. I don't think about weed when you say That Smell.
They knew how to sell.
I think about, wait, are you talking about like after you've like, crushed the bathroom and it's like you fucking destroyed my toilet? It's that smell? That's, everybody's gonna think that, sorry. I know weed smells bad, I get that, but it's like, But yeah, so it's kind of the same thing. That dude, so I'd be woken up at between 6:30 and 7 every morning, so I only had like 3 hours of sleep. So like I said, this is why I'm still cranky this many years later, because for many years I was denied sleep because my stupid fucking neighbor was blaring Lynyrd Skynyrd at 7 o'clock in the morning, mowing his lawn or doing his edging or whatever, and screeching along with like Sweet Home Alabama or whatever. And fuck, man. I even tried like blaring punk rock out the window at like certain times. I would put the like stereo out the window, like blasted Dead Kennedys or something, but it didn't work. I tried, but he didn't really seem to get the message. I don't think he wasn't a bad guy. I just think he was oblivious.
No, he thought that shit was cool as fuck.
He didn't think that anyone would be bothered, which like I said, in some ways, I don't know, is oblivious worse than malicious? Because it's like it doesn't even occur to them that it might be bothering somebody. So I was like, bitch, I work at night. Stop waking me up.
Okay, so there's any questions or anything we can answer from you guys before we go ahead and sign off? If not, we're going to go ahead and sign off.
Camp Guy said, I saw Kevin Smith tell a story about sitting on a toilet and breaking it off the wall.
What? Well, Kevin Smith? Which Kevin Smith?
Kevin Smith, the guy that made Clerks and...
Oh, okay, that guy, yeah.
He's lost a lot of weight since, though.
Yeah.
I don't think he could break a toilet nowadays. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and shut it down, people. Looks like super chats are drying up. Looks like people are starting to leave.
And Zach just pointed out, and I had forgotten about this, so thank you for reminding me. I kid you not, A24, I think, released a movie last year called Her Smell. Yeah, I remember that. And it's like, I haven't seen it yet because I'm like, I'm not going to watch anything called that. I'm sure it's a good movie, but because it's A24. All their shit's good, but I'm not watching a movie called that. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't even like that word. You know how some people don't like the word moist? I don't like the word smell.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Not really.
Don't call anything smell.
It's a smell. Yeah.
I don't want to.
It's the smell of that weed.
No, if you say that, all I think of is like fart smell. That's all I think of. I don't think of weed. Like I said, yeah, weed smells bad, but that's not like the first thing that my brain goes to. And I don't think it's the first thing that most people's brain goes to. Mm-hmm. All right. All right, we're going. You ready to go? You hungry?
I'm ready to go. I'm hungry.
What are you going to make?
Maybe we'll go buy something. It's only 8 o'clock.
Oh, wait, is it?
Yeah.
Wait, you can't drive?
Yeah, I can.
You sure?
Yeah. I could drive. I could ride my bike. I could go to the damn biker bar right now if I wanted to. Yeah.
Okay. I don't believe you, but okay.
No, I can. I won't, but I can.
All right.
Yeah.
Again, I don't believe you.
No, I'm not drunk.
Zach says, "Don't die, y'all."
No.
We'll try not to. I mean, that's kind of like that's my daily affirmation. Yeah. Don't die today.
Yeah.
That's kind of
I
like.
only had two.
That's true. I'm on my third one. So
yeah, I only had two.
But yours are bigger than mine.
Yeah, but I got a good tolerance.
So do I.
Yeah, I don't think your tolerance is as good as mine. I'm just saying.
I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if that's the case. Right. Tammy says Uber, and Mike says take it.
Uber? We're in the fucking country. They don't have fucking Uber here.
I kind of doubt that Uber would come out.
We had a hard time getting internet out here. Uber.
Yeah, we told you guys about that story. We still don't have. Honestly, it's good. I think it it kind of hiccuped a couple times when I was still on the starting soon thing, but it hasn't fucked up since then. Yeah. So hooray! But you know, this is like the fourth fucking internet service that we've tried, and it actually sort of works most of the time.
Yeah, it works. It works good enough. This is the fucking one that came with the free.
Well, it's not free.
It comes with the fucking.
It comes with the HOA,
yeah,
which is $90 a month. But you're already paying that anyway.
Right.
So I still have to cut off that satellite shit.
Yeah, cut that shit off. We don't need that shit.
Because honestly, it's
too fucking slow.
It's not working. No. It doesn't work when we stream. It's it's not even good as a backup.
It didn't deliver as promised, so it has to go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm keeping the shit for my phone, just like I said, for a backup anyway. But
and you could kill that without fucking any. Without breaking any kind of contract or anything.
Yeah. All right. So hopefully everybody's had a good time.
Yeah, we will see you guys.
And we're gonna do Friday night.
Yeah.
Friday night sidetracks, and Friday night is also the Friday night before Halloween because Halloween's on Sunday. Yeah. So we should probably do a Halloween special.
Man, that means I gotta put up the projectors and shit. I should go ahead and do that.
Well, I thought you were gonna do that a long time ago.
Look at this is what it is. Okay, look, let's go. I gotta replace so many lights out there.
It's kind of too late now. We don't even have any Halloween candy. Oh my god!
I gotta kill the power to those lights out there so I can get those
Halloween's
damn bulbs
fucking sneaking up on me.
Okay.
I might I'll try to do a costume Friday night, but it might be something super simple. I might just do Wednesday Addams or something because I already have all the shit for that. Because like I said, I don't have a lot of time or money to come up. Yeah. And you know what? I don't think I've ever worn that dress on the show before. No. I've worn it out a lot of times, but I haven't worn it on the show. I can just braid my hair. It'll be fine. It'll only take 5 minutes. It'll be cool. I'll try to come up with something better for Sunday because Sunday's actual Halloween.
Yeah, her Wednesday outfit makes her look fucking thick, man. Booty and legs and shit, big old boobs. Yeah.
He's getting all fucking dreamy about it.
Yeah.
I do like that dress. It's very comfortable. You bought me that.
Yep.
All right, so we'll be back Friday night for a Sidetracks Halloween special. We'll talk about whatever the fuck. Maybe we'll have some candy. It'll be fun. Everybody says don't drive drunk. Yeah, we're not going anywhere. Yeah, we got food here. Well, let's call Domino's.
That's what I'm saying. It's only a mile away. Don't tell me what to do, people. I got so much fucking experience and I'm not drunk.
I said, we got Domino's and that's right up the street. They could deliver, to be honest.
You gotta tip those bitches.
Yeah, so? They're right there.
Go ahead.
They're right there. All right, so we'll be back on Friday night. Thank everybody for dropping by. You guys are awesome. We'll see you guys on Friday. Bye.